Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I would say the biggest thing is one, just the tradition of Nebraska football. The tradition of Nebraska football, Coach Rule and his track record. He's a heck of a head coach. So, having a chance to, work for him is big for, any coach, if you're a coordinator or assistant coach, as far as your development. I think another thing is obviously my relationship with Dana. We got a pretty good relationship and kind of used to, played in his system, worked for him in his system. So I worked for him for a long time, and I think that was kind of what attracted me here.
I mean, honestly, I had such a great time the first go-around. In this professor, you try to grow, you're trying to build things, you're trying to kind of enhance your career and develop. And Coach Rule came, had the opportunity presented. It was a no-brainer. Probably went home and talked to my son. That conversation lasted 10 minutes, and we was off to Nebraska the next day. So it was an easy decision to make. Super excited to be back.
Well, I've always liked Nebraska. I had some background playing against them when I was at Arizona State. We played them 3 times actually. So I've always admired Coach Osborne in this program. But when Matt came here, Matt and I have known each other, Coach Rule, since 2001. And a lot of the assistants that came with him, I'm real close to. So, I followed it really closely. And so he asked me if I'd come and help. And I said, sure. And I didn't really know what the job was, but I'm just going to help on defense and special teams and, the quality of play on the field. And I'm looking forward to it.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's my guy, DB. We're here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
Everything's going to be all right.
Much like Kendrick. It's going to be all right.
It's funny that he has a lot of other good music, but people, it seems like anything anybody knows is not like us.
Yeah,
but we won't be like that.
No. He's got a deep discography, catalog, if you will.
He does.
Good
morning, JR. That's early.
I know. He's on it early this morning.
It's my new dude.
Man, we got a lot of people in early. Ken, TK,
hey,
what's up, fellas?
You want something funny?
What's up?
What is this? That's
a
my
burn.
finger and that.
Looks like a burn.
What I grabbed?
I'm gonna guess you grabbed a utensil out of a hot pan.
Even more idiotic.
What?
I spun the grate on a grill.
Oh, come on, man!
To go from hot side to cool side.
That's exactly what that looks like. That is a grill line on your finger.
It's perfect. The index finger and the thumb. I'm gonna have
your finger out here looking like a Burger King commercial.
Yeah. Zoe's like, oh,
what are you doing?
That looks like it hurts. Yeah, Zoe. Isn't that it's
perfect? It's a perfect grill. As soon as you said it, I was like, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, that's what your boy.
Man,
and you sit next to the smart guy every day. Every day. I know you're overwhelmed.
So Natasha does the same kind of stuff. Like
grandma hands, right? They just you burn yourself so much, or
that you're not even. Well, and she will make a decision at the cost of her own safety and well-being in order to preserve whatever she's cooking.
Because it was there's half a chicken.
Yeah.
And I wanted I just wanted to smoke it because I was going to eat the whole half chicken.
Yeah.
And it was on because I used my kettle, so I went back old school. Right?
Jason says Fruity Pebbles doesn't leave grill marks.
It's fine.
That's pretty funny.
So I'm gonna forever be stuck with the Fruity Pebbles thing, and it's okay.
Fruity Pebbles are good. I like Fruity Pebbles.
They're fire. They're in my top 3 of all time.
Yeah, I like Fruity Pebbles.
Cereals.
Sorry. Okay, so you're eating the whole half chicken.
Yeah, and I had to make a critical decision.
Yeah.
Because I went, I put the skin side down last because I wanted it to be a certain color.
Yeah.
And I closed the lid, and I had the vent open, and I had my wood in there, and I'm like, oh man. If I go inside,
it's gonna take too long,
and get the tong thing to spin it, there's a little bit of a flame there. I don't want char.
Yeah.
So And it was at that moment that I knew I screwed up. So I just spun that thing. I was like,
that he bleeped up.
Yeah. Instead of just, I'd have been better off just grabbing the chicken and sliding it over,
Yeah.
but I didn't want any.
That's the best part.
I didn't want great residue dragged across my beautiful bird. So I sacrificed the old train track lines on the finger. So I'm riding with Natasha this morning.
No, she'll
It's
come.
just a finger. You got 9 other ones, so you're good.
Yeah. So there's only one real dilemma. I can work around everything else.
What's that? What's the one where real dilemma?
Well, I mean,
With your finger?
it's my right hand.
It's your wiping hand.
Correct.
Yeah. Let me tell you, when I had shoulder surgery, it was on my right shoulder. Trying to wipe my ass left-handed. My God.
Just you can't eat for a while.
It's a disaster.
I just won't eat for a while.
No, it's a disaster.
Although I thought about like just taping
Wrapping
the
it
tips
up.
and gutting it, but
Yeah.
Just give it
Well, you don't
24
wanna-
hours and it'll feel better.
I was say you also don't want to do that with a wound because, like.
I have aloe and some vitamin E, so
No, I mean, you don't want poop near a wound.
it's not open. And I'm not,
It might have been yesterday.
bro. I'm 50. I'm not gonna do the.
You're not
poopy
gonna
finger.
miss?
No,
What if, okay, listen.
no, I'm not doing this with you.
What if you don't give yourself enough leeway and you have like the breakthrough moment? You've done that.
Oh yeah, where it's like not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the concern. I'm not saying you're going to like accidentally
I was
miss.
probably 32 and buzz, but
Hey, yeah, that's kind of still my wheelhouse. 30s and buzzed is kind of where I live.
buzz. Did you want to catch one watching that game last night?
That was so ugly. My God.
That was as quiet as you guys have been on the chain in a minute.
I mean, it's DePaul, so it's just like,
You gonna be all right?
it just is what it is.
So was that real anger, do you think, from Mac, or like fake anger?
I
I
think
say
he-
his presser was not.
I think he
very
was mad about how they played.
warm and fuzzy.
If you're trying to get this team ready for March, I'd be upset about how I played. That wasn't a clean game.
Mm.
And you lose that game to everybody not named DePaul, Butler, maybe Georgetown. Like, that's a game you lose to almost everybody else in the league if you play like that.
Yeah, even Seton Hall acted like they had a pulse.
Yeah,
last
maybe
night.
Seton Hall. Depends on the day.
Yeah.
But it's like you're losing to 2/3, 3/4 of the league if you play like that on any given night. And so I think that's real, not outrage, but I think he's really upset about how they played.
Mm.
I was not upset about my guy, the one and only Fedor Zugic, getting some run.
Yeah, I hope you're not like you do realize that was DePaul on the little
100%,
dribble
yeah.
drive. I mean, I was basically guarding him on that guy.
I think he would have provided more resistance.
I might have tried to pull a Braxton me and stick out a leg to cut off the
You'd have
driving
done some
lane.
cheap stuff on him.
I don't know about cheap, but I would have tried to cut off the driving lane.
Listen, I don't want to disparage Braxton me as a person. I've never met him, don't know anything about him. The guy's play screams dirty.
Mia?
Yeah. There's all the little stuff. He's not like a Patrick Beverly where he's just out there. He's more of like an Anderson Varejao where you're like, he's going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. I'm not about that life. I'm not cool with that.
What about for Zugic, were you like, oh, and then you were all of a sudden cool because he was playing with Mason Miller?
I mean, listen, I don't want to disparage Mason Miller.
Yes, you do. You're part of the reason he lost his confidence.
I'm the reason.
I mean, part of it.
It's not the 5 for 30 from 3.
5 for 35.
My bad. I was trying to give him 5 for 36. He missed another one last night.
At least he shot it.
I don't want him to.
You gotta feel bad.
I would feel. No, I don't feel bad. I really don't.
You couldn't even fake it.
No, I tried. I was trying to. I tried to fake it.
You can't even fake
No,
compassion.
I don't feel bad. He shouldn't be playing rotation minutes. I'm sorry. There's other guys. There's other options at that position.
You're a lot of things, but sorry isn't one of them. You're not apologizing for that.
No, because I used to be a Mason Miller apologist. You remember this, right?
Yes, I do.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
He looked like a different player pre-broken leg.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily advocating.
What did he shoot from 3 last year? 45%?
Yeah, he was good last year.
Yeah.
Like, he had lapses, and there were some things they needed to work on still. But he was a guy that I liked having in the rotation and liked getting minutes. He has not looked like that at any point this year, and now you've got too many other options at his spot. You've got too many other guys that are better at almost everything else he does. Now, he rebounded pretty well last night, so I'll give him credit there. But, Jackson McAndrew's been a pretty good.
So you're like most men, huh? Only as committed as your options. Wow. We got other options now. You're out.
In basketball, yes. If I'm talking about rotation players, 100%. There's a reason I don't bag on Fred King the way I bag on Mason Miller.
Because they have a nice catch and finish.
He
Even
did.
though when that thing hit the glass at first, I was like,
we might shatter that.
Everybody's going to go in on old Frederique.
Listen, I understand Fred King and his minutes because you don't have any other options. And how many guys are you recruiting to play 4 minutes a game behind Ryan Kalkbrenner? Yeah. Not a lot, right? That's not an appealing role to have.
Or a guy that wanted the portal and then was like, yeah, I don't know what the market is. I'll be right back.
Yeah, right? Like, that's a guy that I understand why he plays, and I understand why they probably don't have other options. When Ryan Kalkbrenner's entrenched in there for half a decade, literally, then you don't really have any other options to go get good bigs.
100%.
But if you've got a stretch four in a Greg McDermott offense, what do you know? You've got a lot of options. You got Jackson McAndrew, you got Isaac Trout, you got Jason Green, you got Fedor Zugic. Like, there are a lot of options at that 3-4 spot. Like, Mason Miller shouldn't be getting minutes. I'm sorry.
What's the what do you think the range on the old barometer is, high to low, from the environment last night to this weekend?
It's about as far away as you can get.
Yeah.
I didn't even go last night.
So your boy is in rare form. He is
Who?
One Daniel Hurley.
Oh,
he is. Did you catch his bit last night?
Clown show. He's a clown.
Okay, you can't hear the question
when he initially asked.
But I want you to hear what your boy said when he takes a subtle psych, old school 80s reference.
You think
not so subtle shot at the media. Shano?
I mean, I think the press has been an asshole to me the whole year. Oh, wait, you mean the... Oh, I thought you meant... There's people acting far worse than me. What was that? I didn't know what you were talking about there. I'm sorry.
Clown. He's a clown.
They're talking about the press,
like a basketball press in
like
a game
94 feet
where you're trying to put pressure on a ball handler.
This doesn't miss the opportunity.
And he also doesn't take...
That is your boy.
Can I tell you, like, he did one of the things that, and listen, he's a good basketball coach. He's a borderline great basketball coach. I'm not, whatever. He's probably going to win forever, and it's fine. And I'm going to hate every second of it.
I don't know if he's going to win this year.
Well, in general, like, he's probably not going to struggle a lot during his basketball career. He's a really good basketball coach, right? I'm going to hate every second of it, and that's fine. But you know what he did there that bothers me more than he just went out of his way to be like, oh, the press is so mean to me. They're meaner to me than Creighton's student section. Like, you know what he did there that bothers me the most? He goes, oh, well, there's people worse than me.
Oh, that's my favorite.
That's how you know you are a true Richard.
That's my favorite.
Is when you're like,
I think the press has been an asshole to me the whole year.
He must be a big fan of the show. But like, he does the thing where you go, oh, I'm not that bad. Look at this guy. It's the whataboutism. What about this guy?
What?
And here's the thing.
Those are I'm just telling you.
Those are my least favorite kind of people.
That's so close to home. It's not even funny.
I would not, like, that's every time I've said that I would, like, listen, I'll take Dion over that guy. Name any other coach, player, whoever that I don't like, I will take them over Dan Hurley.
What does bolstered mean?
Yeah, I'll take Bolster Boy every day of the week. And twice on Sunday, because he's a big church guy, over Danny Hurley. And you know what? I don't think there's people that act worse than him in this profession.
He did have a great IG story yesterday.
Who, Dion?
Yeah.
You're going to be surprised. I missed it. I don't really go out of my way to consume Dion content.
Improved. How about improved?
I'm shocked.
It's stunning.
Didn't hit the old news timeline?
It did not. I don't follow him. It didn't show up organically in my feed.
Yeah. I was seeking some things, so I was like, you know what?
Well, you love Dion.
Love is a little.
You loved him as a player.
Yes.
You loved him as a player.
I loved him as a player.
And that affinity carries on to a certain extent now.
It bought him some grace.
Sure, yeah, he's got a lot of runway with you. That's fine. I get that.
Brought him some grace.
I totally understand. There's guys I'm like that with that are probably not awesome. That I'm gonna.
Will there ever be? So does Hurley say anything where you're like, oh yeah, I'm vibing?
Not that I think he actually means.
Oh man.
Because he did a sit down.
Shane, get coach rule.
he did a sit
I
down.
think the press has been an asshole to me the whole year.
He did a sit down last year, I think after the national championship with like 60 Minutes or somebody, or he did one of like the newsy ones.
60 Minutes.
I don't know. Like I'm old. I don't know what.
CBS Sunday Morning.
One of the
Probably wasn't CBS.
Probably not. It might have been ESPN, and they just tried to make it look newsy. I don't know, but he goes and he's like, I think I'm just really misunderstood, and I've really tried to calm down. It's like, no, you're not. Like, just if that's part of what bothers me so much is he's so disingenuous. Like,
I've been listening to Coach Hurley, Danny Hurley a lot.
Exactly.
On one hand, he'll say, "Oh, there's people way worse than I am," and then on the other hand, he's like, "Oh, I'm really trying to work on it." Well, which is it? Because if you can't acknowledge you're doing bad stuff, you're really not trying to work on it.
And he's got to understand he's his own benchmark.
And he's his own worst enemy.
So that's
like, I don't think. Do you think he ever goes back and watches the film of himself in the game and thinks like, yeah, that's okay. Like, yeah, that's normal behavior.
No.
Yeah, I need to be protected from 18-year-olds at Creighton.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I don't think he does either. I don't think there's a lot of self-awareness and reflection in Danny Hurley's game.
I don't think that's a thing.
Great basketball coach, huge a-hole.
Wow. I think the press has been an asshole to me the whole year.
Like I said, he must be.
What if coaches just start dropping that?
I hope they do, and I
think we're getting closer. I mean, you with every new change that happens across the landscape of sports, collegiately in the NFL, coaches are getting a little more aggressive behind them. I mean, shoot, just listen to Coach Rule.
Yeah, they're a little more aggressive with the media.
He is not having it,
and that's fine. But listen, that's a two-way street.
No, 100%.
Like, you can say whatever you want as long as you're winning.
Yeah. No, that much is true.
First weekend exit might not go as well for Danny Hurley as back-to-back rings does.
That much is true.
That much is true. Next time when he's going to the fans at Creighton, he'll be like, "That's how many games I lasted in the NCAA tournament this year, 2, just 2." It's fine. Listen, somebody asked me a long time ago. I think it was on Twitter. I think it was. You remember Don Meyer? He like changes his screen names all the time, or whatever.
I know Don Juan.
He's he engages a lot, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
He asked me one time
if you can keep him being appropriate, he's actually pretty funny.
He is. Yeah, he gets a little sideways sometimes. Not that I'm familiar with that at all. But he asked me one time if I would take Danny Hurley at Creighton because he thought I was being disingenuous in my dislike for him. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth. There is no way in hell. If Greg McDermott retires tomorrow and Danny Hurley's like the only job in the country I want, I couldn't do it. And I'll tell you why I know this, because I thought a lot about this. I really did, because I was actually trying to be self-aware, unlike some people that we know here.
I'd take Hurley in North Carolina.
Yeah, but that's because you're in the desert.
Jason.
Hurley needs a bowl of Fruity Pebbles. They're organic, I heard.
I think the press.
Oh no, it's the fruit. No, it's the Captain Crunch is the organic one. No, I'm telling you, honest to God truth. I would rather be where Creighton is at right now, forever.
That's not bad. Like, you're not giving up a ton.
I mean, okay, so I would rather take where Creighton's been for my lifetime. So only a handful of Sweet 16s. You get the one Elite 8, a lot of tournament appearances, but you're not guaranteed much else, right? I would take that for the rest of my life before I would take Danny Hurley, because that dude is so unlikable. I would not be able to enjoy the success. And I'll tell you, I know this is true.
So at any point, do you catch yourself thinking because kind of what he says sometimes, I don't really have, is it how he says it or what he says?
A lot of it's how he says it. Okay. I also just think
because that's kind of an us thing sometimes.
I don't know. There's too much body of work. Like I've experienced too much, and there's a lot of things that I've experienced sitting behind his bench that he doesn't say publicly. That goes into this. Like, that's a huge part of it. He's a dick. I don't know how else to say it. Like, he's a bad dude. Like, I have experienced this in real time. Like, people who are good people don't say the things he does to randos and children and college students. They just don't. And if he's the first one in history, congratulations. I'll miss on Danny Hurley. He'll be the one out of the 99 that I put in the wrong group. That's fine. I'll live with that. But that's not a good dude. I'll die on that hill. And I would hate rooting for him at Creighton, and I wouldn't do it. And the reason I know this is
I don't believe.
No, you know why I know this is true?
I'd take that dude tomorrow.
I don't even
Chapel Hill.
You know how much I love Steph Curry, right? Yeah. Love that dude. Favorite basketball player of all time. Love Steph Curry. And I love Jordan, and I like Steph Curry more than Jordan. Okay? I didn't even enjoy the 2021 title because of how much I hate Jordan Poole. And I don't hate Jordan Poole nearly as much as I hate Danny Hurley.
Yeah.
I would officiate Jordan Poole's wedding before I spoke at Danny Hurley's funeral. That's how I know I'm telling the truth here. The only reason I even acknowledge the fourth title.
What if at some point he started not as an adversary? You just take him in stride, right?
What do you mean?
So if he wasn't playing a key role and a team you cheer for's failures?
No, that's not true because he didn't win the first 8 times they played. So he wasn't a key role in their failure.
But he wins
he wins a ton.
Conference, yeah.
He wins a ton now, but directly with Creighton, like Creighton owned him for the first 4 years in the conference.
Shouldn't that make it a little easier? It's kind of how I felt about Oklahoma.
It does make it easier, and I still hate him this much.
It's irrational.
Like, that's how you know it's real. That's how you know when I tell you that this dude is a bad dude that I would never want coaching my team, that I mean it. Because Creighton kicked his ass for 4 years, and by the way, it's still like 9-2 against him, or 10-2, whatever the number is. And I still don't want anything to do with him. And it doesn't make me hate him any less.
I think you turned the corner. I got to get off early here for a second. I think you turned the corner when you heard him, when he was cussing at those kids so close.
100%. 100%.
You lost your mind the next day.
Yeah. Because that's a crazy person behavior.
How old were the kiddos?
They were like under 10. They were not in middle school. They were children. Yeah. Like, listen, I would curse out some middle school kids. Don't get me wrong. Middle school kids are, like, when I talk about tough hangs, they are tough hangs.
There's just this part of me that kind of enjoys winning.
Yeah, I like winning too.
So my threshold to put up with that stuff is it's significant.
Yeah.
It's very like you're talking about getting by with LeBron, and I know you make fun of me for not liking guys that are good that go to my team.
I'm just saying you're still complaining about Luka, so I'm just going to put that out there.
I wouldn't say complaining. You guys want he hit a 30-footer, and you guys are like, you want AD back? And I'm like, 2 seconds later, he just shot an air ball from 33 feet. I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'm going to cheer. But you're not changing my mind tomorrow.
Justin says he'd drop kick a middle schooler. The middle schoolers are tough. Like, don't be wrong.
My man.
That's like the group you like the most, though, isn't it?
Don't you want? I don't know. I think with the way kids are, young people are, you need a little bit of that. I don't know how much is too much.
Sure.
But clearly they rally for him.
They do, and that's fine.
Regardless of what Caravan said a week, 10 days ago.
You know what? I would never.
But Caravan even put that solely on the players. He's like, man, this is on us. Like, we don't play hard all the time.
That's fine. That's fine. But guess what? Not a single person I care about would I ever let go play for Dan Hurley. Not a one. They can find somewhere else to go. They can find somewhere else to go.
You like a little more Phil Simpson to you?
I would like somebody who actually outwardly appears like they care about me or my family, or isn't going to swear at children because he got mad at a basketball game.
I mean, I think the press has been
like, I don't think that's a high bar. Like, that's not a big ask. You know why? Because I sit behind that bench.
I thought you meant.
You know when he says stuff like, this is a bit, though.
No, well, kind of. He didn't actually mistake what he was talking about. He was
wanted
just
to get that in.
Yeah, that's not a bit. That's him, again, being a dick.
Well, I'm talking about the part I think that really drives you crazy is the pretending to be dumb afterwards.
Well,
like he's just dragging it out.
Not just that, but pretending to be dumb, pretending to be a victim, pretending to be whatever else, pretending to be like, oh, they're so much worse than me. Listen, we both watch a ton of college basketball, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Do you know, can you name anyone off the top of your head that behaves as badly on a regular basis as Dan Hurley?
No. Beard is close.
Beard's pretty bad. I'm not a big Beard fan either.
They got their teeth kicked in. It was a shame. I just watched you watched that with me.
Yeah, the Ole Miss thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big Chris Beard. What did I say when he was on? Not a big Chris Beard guy.
Oh, that's right. You did.
Real time. Not a big Chris Beard guy. Now he doesn't cross paths with me very often, so it doesn't matter.
What about Buzz?
I don't know. Like, I don't think Buzz is as angry. He yells a lot.
Yeah, Buzz is pretty intense.
But he's intense, but he doesn't come off as angry to me. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, there's a difference. There's a lot of guys that are intense that don't seem angry.
Yeah.
I don't think Buzz is angry. He's intense.
Sean Miller has a little bit of that to him.
I don't love Sean Miller.
Sean Miller has a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm not a big Sean Miller guy. I think he's kind of cut from the same cloth.
Gosh, that is interesting. A guy that's kind of will tell you what he thinks quite a bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't like guys that'll tell you what they think. So what's the cutoff?
No, I think how you treat people. Like, I'll tell you how I think, but anybody in my regular life, like, I treat people in my life well.
Yeah, I'll vouch.
Right? Like, I treat people around me well. Like, and also, like, what we do here is sort of an exaggeration of who we are as people.
So you definitely have a style. Because I could name a couple. I know a couple guys you don't like.
Who?
He texted me last night with his Bruntz and Arroyo picture. It was
Evan?
incredible.
I told him to send that to you.
Dude, he looked just like me.
I know.
I had to laugh.
I told him.
He's the only time I laughed yesterday at all. I laughed for 5 minutes.
He sent it to me. I was like, you got to send that to DB.
Yeah, that was very Arroyo-esque.
My guy was on it.
You're out on Underwood for the same reason?
Yes, he seems very angry, and I don't trust his coaching either. Like, at least with Hurley, like, that guy's going to coach
So
well.
what comes to mind with him is he got the tech late against Michigan State about a month ago. In a game they could have won. They ended up losing by 2 or 3. It was like 73-71 final. And he got like this quiet technical during a replay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder what he said. Then he just went
Lost
in.
it.
Yeah. But it was post-technical.
You know what it is? I think this is what it is. I don't like people that I don't feel like are in control of themselves. I think that's a big thing for me. Like, everything I've said about Danny Hurley, I really feel.
Which is why you didn't like Bobby Knight.
But I can turn it down. Like, I can be a normal person, right? Like, I don't have to go in on Danny Hurley. I can let it, I can just not like him quietly, but that's not my job, right?
I wonder how you would have been.
I don't like Bobby Knight. I'm not a Bobby Knight guy at all.
Did you like Bo?
No. I don't like people that so there's two things. I don't like people that I don't feel like are in control of themselves. That really bothers me. And I don't like people that I consider to have chaotic energy. Like, I don't bring chaos into my life.
So principled.
Listen.
No, I get it though.
That's why I'm weird about having people.
I would say it a different way for me, but it's kind of the same thing. I always tell myself I have to protect my energy.
Yes, it's the same thing.
I have to protect my energy.
100%. I don't like people that because there's like an unpredictability that I don't trust when I don't feel like you're in control of yourself. I didn't trust Bo. And listen, I'm not going to argue with results. Like, he's been the best coach of the last 25 years in Nebraska. Like, no questions asked. That's fine. I was also totally okay when he got dismissed.
Whose personality, and it's short, it was in small little snippets yesterday. Whose personality did you find yourself gravitating towards?
Shorts.
Tequila?
Shorts, yeah.
Huh. Why?
He just seemed like a guy that was like very comfortable with who he was, what his path in life was, kind of what he was doing. Like, he seemed very secure in himself, and he seemed like an easygoing, like, again, a guy that I'm pretty sure is intense or can be intense, but a guy that felt pretty secure in who he is and knew what he was doing.
I kind of want to get into that. They put together some interesting personalities that I think are going to have to fit together, and this is on the heels of hiring Pat Smith.
When we'll get in, Pat Stewart.
Did I say Smith?
Yeah.
I was thinking kicker 2013. My bad.
I was thinking Jean-Luc Picard. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Yeah, Matt tried to get me to come when he came. But, I just told him, I said, at my age, and I just didn't have the energy to go out and recruit and do the things that it took to be really successful. And I was really happy I hired Tony. Tony was with us at UCLA for a year. So, I knew Tony quite well. So I was happy about that. The game, the portal and NIL, I left college football in 2019. So this is my first full-time gig with that in place. But I mean, you just got to adjust to the times, and I think this staff has done and Matt has done a great job adjusting. And you guys know this. His plan has changed a little bit from originally when he got here, and so it's an adjusting deal, and you just got to keep adjusting with it.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla, and we're reminding you, get that seatbelt clicked and fastened while you're on your way to work this morning, or maybe you're on your way to breakfast. Maybe you're on your way to anger management with Danny Hurley. I don't know where you're going.
Or Ravi.
But, oh, no, I'm good. Make sure.
That's my mic levels.
Make sure you've got that seatbelt clicked. It prevents injuries and saves lives. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Did you see the deal with the truck that was overturned and the guy was deceased and the lady is in critical condition?
Yeah.
Nobody called it in. I think it was in the Papio Creek.
Yeah, it was weird.
Nobody called it in for it was some hours.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Usually you get those called in pretty much right away.
Well, I think it was time of night and kind of where
maybe
it was.
Nobody saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A Walker
Ugh.
called it in.
Those are rough.
And I don't mean Sally.
Sally Walker. Is that a person?
Yes.
I was more of a Javon Walker guy.
I'm not surprised.
I was more of a Texas Walker.
Walker, Texas Ranger?
Yeah. That fits your personality.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
You're pretty that.
What?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh.
And for you to not know Sally Walker, that makes sense.
I'm going to Google Sally Walker right now.
Yeah. This will kind of be interesting because you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, no, that's a song by Iggy Azalea. That's a different person.
But Sally Walker she's
just a person?
Is a song that was redone for a game that little girls used to play.
So is Sally Walker a person or a song?
So Sally Walker is both. Sally Walker is not a real person. She's a figment of a game.
Oh,
okay. Like Patty Cake.
Okay.
But a different people's version. And then Sally Walker was turned into a song.
Okay.
Play it sometime. It's got a nice little beat to it.
Well,
little Sally Walker walking down the street. You never heard that?
I have not. No.
Okay.
Jason says, beware the skinwalkers. Good call. Good call.
So I think I've seen that's a movie, right?
Yes, it's also
I've seen it scroll across my.
Believe it's also a Native American tradition.
Oh,
I think that's where it comes from.
Like the whole Wendigo thing.
Yeah, it's like skinwalkers and like shapeshifters and stuff like that.
Around.
I don't either.
I don't mess around.
It's like you and your chupacabra. We just keep.
Well, you see, and the doors were wide open yesterday, and I assume it was a chupacabra because it was still dark in here. By the way, I watched episode 7 last night.
Of what?
Of Paradise.
Okay.
And it was roughly 1:10
in the morning,
and I was mad. There's a character on there, and I can't do it because she's a female, but man, it's not a nice person. I mean, the Hurley of the show.
Well, speaking of Hurley,
her nickname is Sinatra.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was Sally Walker.
You're going to know the song, I think.
I might once I hear it, but it's not ringing a bell right now. Speaking of Hurley, our guy Asian Wyatt wants to talk a little bit more about our favorite basketball coach in the country, Danny Hurley. What's up, Wyatt?
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Wyatt. What's up?
Oh, that was weird how you said that.
It was Wyatt. You're not wrong.
What would I do? Like, to be honest, like, you want to recreate it?
Hi, Wyatt. What's up?
Oh, I'm buttering you up so in case you ever get in the egg business.
Oh, okay.
If you're a wholesaler distributor. At some point after all these years, I mean, I got to get something out of the relationship other than recipes and your humor. And cute kids.
Yeah.
Most people just call that friendship. Doesn't have to be so transactional, DB.
Have you contemplated hitting the black market, Wyatt?
I mean, we only got 7 chickens, so
mass productions, and that's not your thing. Huh?
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe Simple can do that, but I don't know.
No, he's down to less than that.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so Ravi, with your Danny Hurley feelings, it just reminded me from this was back. Damon wasn't there, but you had said that if it was Danny Hurley and Deion Sanders in a fire, that you would save Deion over Danny.
Yes. So 100%.
What happened was, because I don't have time to do this anymore because I got 2 kids. But I used to I knew my way around Photoshop. And in my mind, I had the scene. Like, I can make this. Where's the scene where Ravi is in a burning building, and he has Deion in his arms, cradling and running out the building.
Like Kevin Costner bodyguard style?
Yeah, and then there's a little word bubble coming out of Deion that says, I knew I could count on you, bro. and then, like, I knew you'd bolster. And there's like next panel is just a little like Ravi giving side eye to Deion, and then in the background is Danny just yelling at you, like, dude, this is why you played the only Christian college in Omaha. But,
hey, there were two.
You're imagining that's ridiculous. That's pretty good.
I tell you what, Wyatt, if you ever have time again and you make that, I will wear that shirt on air.
So, Wyatt, I got to ask a question because I'm jealous. We lost a guy that was really, really good doing Photoshop and stuff like that. He just got a job at SDSU. How long does it take to kind of be proficient at that?
I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because I'm not like a professional, but I just know my way around it enough to do enough creativity more than like an average person. Yeah. I mean, that probably took me, because I at that time I took some online, because I was in my 20s. I had time. I had, all the time in the world. It's probably like 6 hours worth of watching videos.
Huh.
And then, practicing
6 hours doesn't seem like that's just a night for me. Instead of watching bad TV.
I'll say that's like a half a series of some Russian TV show that he doesn't need to watch.
Yeah, I won't get that back.
Yeah. Yeah. And now Photoshop has AI tools, so you can just tell it what you want it to do. It'll probably do half the work for you.
God dang AI, man. I need to get better.
Oh, you know what I need to do?
I appreciate the call. What do you need to do besides
I bet if I put a picture of me into ChatGPT and told it to create an image of me saving Deion Sanders from a burning building that Danny Hurley was in, I bet it would do it.
That sounds like a lot.
No, ChatGPT is crazy, man.
Huh.
I bet it would do it.
My man Lance knows about that stuff. We're having these deep conversations about the difference between like the GPT and like true AI.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man. That guy's got some huge thoughts.
Lance?
Yeah, if you got to hunker down and maybe like survive for a while, he may be a guy you want to take with you.
Good guy to have around.
Yeah, because he's kind of nuts, but not really. And we'll take some chances. Like, you need a guy like that. You can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think of the dude in American Primeval, which was another series that I hated, but there's a dude in there I liked.
I'm just going to be honest. If I'm ever in that situation, like, I'm not a survivor.
Yeah, but you don't have it in you to just quit.
Nah, but like, there's probably a certain point where I'm going to call it.
Really?
Yeah, where I was like, yeah.
We're so opposite. It's not even funny.
Like, my desire to be alive does not outweigh.
You have got to watch Paradise.
Like, the level of, like if we're talking like apocalyptic stuff, right? I'm not talking like a downturn in the economy or something. Like, I'm talking like zombie apocalypse.
I'm not talking about 2010.
Yeah, like this isn't 2000.
Actually 2025 maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about, I lose my job and it's like, well, I guess we're done here. It's, if there's like an apocalypse, I've got certain needs in terms of like medicine and stuff like that where I'm not going to last long anyway. I'm probably not going to go out like struggling.
All right. You've seen Con Air, right?
Yeah.
So, the brother on police like, don't worry about me. Just go, Poe. Go. I'm not leaving you behind. Would you be just leave me, Poe?
Yeah. I would just be like,
just tell Cameron to go.
Be like, I'm cool. Just go get on.
Really?
Get on getting on. Yeah. Like, at a certain point. I'm not saying like day one. Like, I'm going to give it some time. But like, when it becomes clear this thing is not returning to any sort of normalcy, it's going to be hard to like acquire.
Oh, you have got to watch Paradise.
When I realize it's going to be hard to like acquire insulin and stuff like that, like, I'm not going through that. I'm just not doing it.
So how long do you think it'll take Nebraska fans to get over, or are they just ready to win that Snow was instrumental in Arizona State, Nebraska?
Honestly, I don't know.
He's a huge historian.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got the suggestion. I'm not going to say it out loud because somebody will try to do it, but somebody from down there put a bug in our ear. I'll tell you about it off air. But anyway, back to Phil.
I don't know that it's going to bother most people.
Do you know what I think we're going to appreciate?
What's that?
So Nebraska has, the new rule. So I'm going to count him. Although he'll still have to be a little filtered.
Yeah, but I do
Holgerson,
think he brought up a really good point about not having to recruit now.
Phil Snow. They have some guys on staff that cannot not tell you what they're thinking. I'm telling you. Like, they won't be able to help themselves if you ask them the right questions.
Okay.
You watch.
I mean,
we'll know more.
I like that.
Do you? I kind of do too. I just want. I'm in wait and see mode because we're gonna have to be able to handle it because we weren't good with Rule because we were so unused to a guy just kind of telling us.
I mean,
we still overthought it.
Not we weren't good with Rule as the royal we.
I don't like to separate myself.
I mean, I thought
it's understood that I kind of understand it.
Right, but I would like to include myself in there. I don't think I was bad about it. I would like to kind of like ride the coattails a little bit, if that's okay.
My man.
Oh, man, you have officially hit your stride.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this.
You be you.
I don't know if you remember this. He did dap me up at Big Ten Media Days, so I think we're cool.
He left me hanging too, didn't
he? He might have. I don't know. Out of the two of us, one of us got the bro hug, the other one didn't. I'm just saying.
Shoot, and you might have had the poopy touch. I should have warned him ahead of time.
No, I washed my hands very thoroughly.
I mean,
I'm telling you.
Has been an asshole to me the whole
year. I was telling somebody the other day, and I get that this is not a great look for me, but it's a funny story. My entire goal was just do not poop myself in front of Matt Rule. That's the only thing I was trying to accomplish that weekend. I left the BC interview.
I know.
I pieced out. I was like,
I seldom. I don't know. Like you're old enough and you're doing your job, so I'm like, okay, he's good.
Yeah.
But at one point when I came over to say, because you were in press row,
yeah.
So I thought you were like engaged.
Yeah.
But I think you just wanted.
I just wanted to sit down.
Or like some alone time. I'm like, hey, did you hear? And I'm standing, and
Yeah.
Ravi's sitting.
I don't even
There's
think I made
people-
eye
there's
contact.
People on press row, and I'm like, hey, did you hear when he said it was USC?
Oh, it was Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go, be honest, man, I'm not even paying attention. I'm just trying not to. Didn't even look at me.
I did not make eye contact. I didn't turn my head.
I was like, all right, man, you go ahead and do you. I'll be back. I'll be over here.
But trust.
You're like the little kid that goes to the corner.
Yes. I was like, I need a timeout. Like, just give me a minute. But trust Coach Rule, my hands were clean. I made sure. Lots of soap. I did like the song in my head to make sure we're thorough and sanitary. We're good to go. It's the song you're supposed to sing.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, it's the happy birthday song twice.
Oh.
You know, you just do it in your head a little bit.
Like a long time.
Well, there was a lot of poop, man.
Twice? That's okay. Okay.
We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
Go to your room.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I think it's a great time to be back. You got a good group. You got depth. You got young guys, but guys coming in who hungry, need to prove themselves. You got coaches coming in who need to prove themselves. So it's a good opportunity for us to come in and grow together, develop in a room. And you got guys who have really good traits and really good football skills in terms of rushing the passer. So it's all just putting it together and just generating a room that's, just want to be the next up.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB? What are you laughing about over there?
T-Mac.
What T-Mac say today?
He's T-Mac is what I would call a Shane guy. Where Shane, what's the one thing that you always used to do when you would come out of the bathroom?
Give you a high five.
How'd you open the door?
Oh, with your
like it's with his elbow, right? You always or his foot.
He's notorious for using a paper towel.
Oh yeah. I've seen that.
I don't know that where we were at before there. It was a little suspect at times.
It was, man.
I mean,
there were some dudes that would blow that thing.
Okay, and
T-Max, I used to think Shane was weird, but I am.
You're vibing now.
I'm 100% with him.
Well, what it was, I mean, in the former life, being on radio, you'd have like let's say it's FM, you'd have like a 3-minute break and somebody would run back and use the restroom and then they'd have to run right back. So they weren't washing their hands.
I'm just saying there were some.
I'm just
you
saying.
guys are both doing too much.
There were some hate crimes committed in those bathrooms.
I just would do it way too much.
There were. You tell me I'm wrong.
I caught some interesting. I'm not going down that rabbit hole with you. I'm tempted, but I'm going to grow up first.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Where he said something interesting, because we've talked about this a ton, about putting the staff together a certain way.
Yeah.
A communicator, a rally guy, a teacher, an overseer, a shepherd, like just putting the puzzle pieces together. Did you catch Coach Shane, play that same clip one more time. You tell me what you think I'm talking about that caught my eye.
Okay.
I think it's a great time to be back. You got a good group. You got depth. You got young guys, but guys coming in who hungry, need to prove themselves. You got coaches coming in who need to prove themselves. So it's a good opportunity for us to come in and grow together, develop in a room. And you got guys who have really good traits and really good football skills in terms of rushing the passer. So it's all just putting it together and just generating a room that's, just want to be the next up.
What did he throw in there unnecessarily?
I don't know. I don't know what caught your eye there.
You've got a good group of coaches that need to prove themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
See, that right there, and full disclosure, I'm probably hearing what I want to hear. But it wasn't necessary to add.
Sure.
So it's something that has been told to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's right.
Right? Like, if you look at that, it's knowing what you know now, what I just said.
Yeah,
you go back,
that makes sense.
There was no reason for him to say that.
Because you've got a lot of guys that
I like that. Because you know what have I said for 15 years to guard against this place? This ain't goddamn Disneyland.
Yeah.
Or World. Which one is bigger? World. Obviously.
World is bigger.
World's bigger than
Land.
Yeah. This ain't Disney World. So like stay on your grind.
But it can feel that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of that's the downside of
it's finding guys with that in their DNA.
Having the resources and the facilities and the chef cooked meals and all the gear and all the fans and all the social media and all of that. The downside is you can think you've already made it.
And look who he's brought in to insulate themselves. Two guys. When I say Coach Holgerson and Coach Snow will be two guys that can't not say, there is no real filter.
Yeah.
They're just old, savvy, grizzled vets. I don't mean old necessarily in terms of age.
No, but like experienced.
Just
seen a lot of stuff.
Just seen too much to play the game.
Also, there are a couple of guys that come off to me as just not interested in all the stuff.
Yep.
Right? They come off as just like, hey, I'm here to coach ball.
Yep.
Like, how often do you have a coach that would come in his mid-60s last year, 65, 66, 67, whatever he is, and go, I didn't really know what the job was. I just came in to help.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy that just wants to coach ball.
Yep.
Because how many dudes do you know that would take a job, regardless of age, but especially when you don't need to, that they don't know what the job is. They don't know what it entails. They're just like, I'm just here to coach ball.
He's just, I think we're going to really, really like him. And it's not like he's a great He's a good orator, right? I mean,
he was fine,
but it's not like
he wasn't.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not his. It's not the.
He's not charismatic.
Yeah, it's not the. I was going to say it's not the charisma.
Yeah,
it's just what he says. He's just very matter of fact, and the Rolodex of history. I think in terms of what he's seen, how he just immediately recalls. See, I geek out over stuff like this when he says, "Gosh, you know what? Well, they gave us a small guy, and we had a small guy on the other side, so we had to go to a 5 front because we got to be able to stop the run."
Yeah.
Immediately, I'm like, hand me the paper towel. I got to dap up because those are the things that the game within the game and adjusting about how you still need to be able to do. Or he's like, man, I've watched this college game the last handful of years. You know what the Big Ten is? Big Ten is 2-back run game. It's 1-back passing game. That's pretty. I'm used to that. This is what I think we can do. Hey, we're really good on 1st and 2nd down. Let's ramp up 3rd down. What killed Nebraska last year? 3rd down. But what did Coach Rule say in the offseason on why the defensive coordinator thing was so tough to change? Because he liked a lot of the stuff they did from a preparation standpoint. So if you don't think that's intentional, I don't know what to tell you.
No, it has to be. I mean,
they're putting this thing together in a way that's going to give themselves a chance.
I also like you've got basically a mix of experienced guys that just want to coach ball and young guys that have something to prove, right? A lot of guys that shouldn't get distracted by all the twinkling lights.
And my man, he said, hey, make no mistake about it. This is blank's defense.
John Butler's
defense. And he put to bed the whole nonsense about the overseeing and Tony and not like that wasn't it.
No,
that wasn't it. And I said that at the like, don't go doing that.
Sometimes we're doing too much. Coming up next, we're going to start getting into a little NFL draft, NFL combine with our guy Ryan Roberts from Rise and Draft and A to Z Sports. Coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Kicking off hour number 2, we are on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla. We're presented by Centris Federal Credit Union, and we are joined now. We're going to get a little nerdy on you here with our guy, Ryan Roberts. He's from A to Z Sports. He also does podcast Rise and Draft. What's up, Ryan?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's everything on you guys then?
Just trying to keep up, man. I feel like this is pretty fluid, especially – I guess I'd say the top 10 is pretty fluid, but like 11 through the back end, so many different things can happen. How much of what you're going to end up probably projecting, Ryan, has to do with, number one, where Stafford lands, and two, the fact that the Saints said out loud, Carr's our guy?
Yeah, I mean, it has to obviously go into the conversation, right? I mean, this is the fun time of the year because after the Combine – which I'm here in Indianapolis, and then after obviously free agency kind of really gets heavy in pretty soon here, that's when kind of the predictability of projecting mock drafts and all that type of stuff really comes in. Because this time of the year, people always fight with me because they're like, that guy's not going there. I'm like, guys, we don't even know if that position is going to be a team need in a couple weeks. You know what I mean? So I think that right now you're going to get a really great concept of just what these teams are going to do. You're going to hear a lot of things out here in Indianapolis. You're going to hear things that aren't true. You're going to hear some things that are very true. And you're going to really start kind of piecing together what is a team need, what is not a team need, what's a prospect fit, what isn't a prospect fit. And this is the fun time of the year because I think you get a really good concept. But I always tell people, like, down here at the Combine specifically, I kind of joke about it, but it's like I only believe about like 17% of what I hear, down here. You just can't, you got to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. But hearing these general managers, these coaches, kind of understanding their philosophy, I don't really care as much about them talking player X versus player Y. I want to hear what their philosophy is because I think that tells you a whole lot more about who they're going to value, what they're going to value, and the positions that I think that are still on the front of their mind as far as what they consider to be needs and that type of thing.
Ryan, let me ask you this about the quarterbacks real quick, because obviously not a super strong quarterback draft, depending on how you feel about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. But after that, it does seem to be kind of a cliff, although it sounds like some people are trying to talk themselves into Jackson Dart. But my co-host over here is one of them because he keeps seeing his name pop up with the Steelers, so he's trying to talk himself into that not being a nightmare. But
wow,
it's only Kenny Pickett's only been a couple years ago, brother. So
traumatized.
But so with a not strong quarterback class and kind of the success of some reclamation projects, whether it's a Sam Bradford or a Baker Mayfield or a couple years ago a Geno Smith, like how much do you think that has to do with sort of this looking under some rocks and existing guys in the league versus, well, hey, maybe we want to move up to 1 and take Cam Ward, or maybe we want to move up to 3 or 4 and take Shedeur Sanders? Like, how do you kind of weigh what you're hearing and what you're seeing versus how the strength of the quarterback class versus what we saw in the NFL this past couple of years?
It's a great question. I think when you kind of juxtapose the two draft eligible players with the free agents that are out there, right, like these veteran additions, I do think that the veteran market's going to be a little bit hotter than some people anticipate as far as like the money value, because I don't think it's a great draft. Like, it's not, right? So I think that those things are very, very, very interrelated. Like, I think that it'll surprise some people, because I think most people just think that like Sam Darnold on the open market's just going to get like 3 years, like 90, or 2 years, 2 years, 60 or something like that. And it's just going to kind of be a little bit of a prove it deal. I'm not as convinced about that right now. Like, I'm kind of waiting and seeing a little bit, because like, if you do not get, because I like Cam Ward and I would be open to drafting him pretty early depending on my situation. But after that, I'm not really comfortable with a lot of guys, especially early on in this draft. So do you sacrifice that cap maneuverability to get a more known commodity versus a guy that you think maybe could be a good player? So I think those things are very, very interrelated. From like everything that I'm hearing, I think that the veteran market's going to be a little bit hotter than some people anticipate because of the draft class. And ultimately, too, you usually hear this cliche this time of year of like, hey, no, we're just going to wait till next year's quarterback class. And right now, like, it's very, very early, obviously, but the 2026 class doesn't look stellar on paper either. So I think the veteran market is going to be pretty hot, because there's just no, like, in 2025, you have Cam Ward, some like Shedeur, some do not like Shedeur, some like Jackson Dart, some do not like Jackson Dart. Jalen Milroe is a complete wild card and a dart throw at this point. But then 2026 again, like Nico from Tennessee and Is Arch Manning going to be that guy, even though he only has like 95 career pass attempts? Like, there's just a lot of question marks, and I think that is going to lead more to trending towards some substantial money given in the open market this year.
So how much of this do you think, because I'm looking at kind of high-end guys, and we'll see what happens with whether Carter needs foot surgery or not, but generally speaking, from a talent standpoint, the next handful of years in terms of depth, how much of it do you feel is in any correlation or not to changing schools, development? Athletes aren't getting any worse, but the quality of kind of play is, I don't know. We saw it in college basketball too for a while. It's not bad, but it's just not like, ooh, that guy. There's a lot fewer surefires, it seems, the last handful of years than what's typically been on the market.
I know in your intro you said we're going to get a little nerdy here, and I told myself I'm not going to get that nerdy, but like I think that this is one of the things that I've been talking about so much over the last couple months with the transfer portal the way it is, and players being able to move from program to program at a split second at this point. I do think it's hurting development at a few different positions. Now, I think that there are some that it won't really matter, like because I think that there's some positions that are just generally, if you are super athletic and you have good coaching, you can figure it out. But then there are other positions, like I think about offensive line, I think about quarterback, where live reps and development technically and physically are so important. So me dropping a kid, like let's say an offensive lineman who spent 1 or 2 years at program X, and then all of a sudden I throw him into a different program where he's learning some new, different technical nuance. He's part of a completely different strength and conditioning program. Like, yes, there are going to be some parallels, but there's also going to be a lot of differences. Like some people just value different things, whether it's flexibility versus, core strength. And like, there's just a bunch of different things that don't always match up consistently. And I think that there are going to be some positions, and I think we're starting to see it a little bit. Quarterback, jumping from one spot to another. Offensive line, jumping from one spot to another. I do think that there's some positions that there's a lot of validity to your question of, does the ability to move around so much and go into so many different programs, does that hurt the technical and just overall natural mental development of being able to play and being able to be comfortable and being able to develop under one position coach and one coach and all those different types of things? So I do think that it is hurting, but I think it's more specifically hurting at a couple different spots like offensive line and quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point you bring up, or that DB brings up, and that you kind of reiterated there, that we always use it as kind of a reason why a quarterback struggles in their early years in the NFL. If you're like, oh man, like Baker Mayfield had 4 offensive coordinators his first 4 years, and now all of a sudden he's flourishing with a little bit of consistency. It's like, why wouldn't that be true for even younger guys? And it doesn't really seem like something people talk about very much.
Yeah, no, I really think so. I mean, because I would even say it like when it's almost like it's almost like a chain of development, in the sense of, when I always talk about players specifically going to the NFL, I always want to get them really good at one thing before I put number 2 on their plate, number 3 on their plate, right? Like I want them to master something, and then we build off of it. That's called a foundation. For quarterbacks that are jumping from one system to another, did they master anything? Did they master something and now we put some more onto their plate? Or do they have a just completely new set of rules, a new set of foundations that they have to develop from square one, right? So I think that there is a lot to it, because I mean, in a former life, I was a teacher, right? So like, I understand that, like, foundationally speaking,
that's why I like it.
Yeah, it is. So I understand that, like, for a kid to be the best version of themselves and to show consistent growth as a student, and in this case, a student athlete, you need to have a really strong foundation, and then you build upon it. But if you have a foundation and then you completely break the foundation down, or you completely change the foundation, you are hurting development without question. So I do think that there is a lot of validity to same spot, same case. You're going to develop this, and then when we develop that and you master that, then the next step comes. So I do think foundationally there's inconsistencies, and I think there's lack of development from the fact that some kids just are not patient enough in certain instances, and then in other instances, some players are forced out. Like, it's not just on the player, unfortunately, all the time in today's NIL and transfer portal system, but it is kind of hurting the long-term development of players without question.
In 2025, and I get it, I followed this, I mean, I'm only 50, but I'd say 40 years as a guy that loves the draft. It's a comp business. Hey, he reminds me of, or hey, he's this. It's just natural. But sometimes I think guys are hurt by comps, right? I look at a guy like Ted, and regardless of however you feel about him, you'll hear these things like, hey, big body non-separators or 50-50 guys. They haven't always translated well, and it ends up kind of being like a tick or a mark against. If I'm going forward in the eval business and I'm a talent evaluator for an organization, do I want to be closer to I got comps guys, or I want to be closer to, hey, I may have to report back to my bosses and say, I don't really have a good comp, but then X, Y, and Z about said player?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all individualized, right? Like, I think I agree with you. I think the comps can just, generally speaking, create buckets, and we just throw players into buckets. And when we put players in the buckets, we bucket them with their strengths, their failures, and also what they weren't able to develop, right? Like me comparing someone to Laquan Treadwell, for instance, if we're talking about just like big physical wires that can't separate, that gives you a perception of a player. But in reality, though, every player has unique skill sets, and they can do X, Y, and Z differently than player Z, right? So I think that when the evaluation process is very important because we need to separate things. This is why helmet scouting is a thing that we don't talk about. We need to talk about a lot more, and we have talked about over the last several years. Just because a player plays the same position at the same school does not mean that they have the same strengths and weaknesses. It just doesn't. Like, some people would have not have drafted C.J. Stroud most likely because they're like, oh, Ohio State quarterback. But it just goes way, way beyond that. So we need to separate, and this is what I always talk about in the evaluation process. We need to separate the player, the upside, the person, and then the character beyond that, right? Like the teammate and stuff. Like, this is a very multifaceted process because we always talk about, this player is getting drafted to this team, but like teams are investing in people, and I feel like we really lose sight of that. And there's some kids that are okay with just being fine, and they're okay with just being good. And there's others that have this kind of unspoken feeling of I want to be the best, and that's hard to quantify in a scouting report, for watching a little bit of film or a little bit of all 22 on a player. So I think we really just need to separate that, because I think the minute that we start just throwing guys in the buckets, we have failed, because then we're just kind of generally speaking, and we didn't do our due diligence to really understand the full scope of a football player.
Coming from a former teacher and a special ed major, you have teacher written all over you, even in your verbiage, right? Like the whole bucket and best version of yourself and performance. So let me stay with that. What would you do with a guy, and he's getting some strange comps, but what would you do with a guy like Shamar Stewart? How individualized do you have to make the eval on a guy like Stewart?
It's a great question. It's funny. It's a quick tangent, but I was also a special education teacher, so there's a lot of parallels there. It's hilarious. For Shamar, though, it's a very fascinating conversation, because traits on the edge have historically mattered, right? Like, people always talk about like testing, overrated. What does it matter for? Like, on the edge, it does matter. Like, when you really look at the guys that have been the best pass rushers for the most part, some freaky dudes, man, some aliens. Like, they really are. So Shamar has all that. He's 6'5", 280. He said he's going to run the 4.6s this week. Like, he's a freaky dude. And you see the flashes on film. The problem I think that he felt at Texas A&M is, one, he was a little bit of a later riser. He didn't really kind of start coming into his own until this year. And if you watch him at Texas A&M, they utilized him all over the place. Like, I mean, he wasn't just like a wide tech. Like, they were using him 4-eye, odd front at times. And that comes back to one of my earlier points is, I want to make a player really good at something and major in something before I start to build off of him a little bit. So there is a little bit in me of Shamar Stewart, whatever team he wants to go to, I want them to keep it simple, super simple for him early. Like, super simple. This is your alignments. These are your couple alignments. These are your couple movements up front. And now we're going to build the repertoire. I think if you're patient with Shamar Stewart, patience is the biggest thing, because if you're expecting Shamar Stewart to go into the NFL next year and have double-digit sacks, I think you're going to be really, really disappointed. But if you are okay with him having 5 sacks, playing good run defense, growing throughout the year, and then having that year 2 breakout, that's what you're really investing in my opinion. So I think there's a little bit of patience there, but I also think there's a simplistic approach you have to take on. And then as he masters those things, then you add moves to the arsenal. Then you add responsibilities to his plate. If you do that well, he could end up being one of the best players in this draft, but I do not think that anyone should expect him to be one of the best players in the draft in 2025. I just don't think that is the curve that he's on right now.
This is coming from the guy that was just downing comps So I understand. I understand the hypocrisy here. But it sounds, it sounds like, especially when you go from 4-eye to being in a 4 to an edge guy, that it reminds me a little bit of Richard Seymour when he was coming out for school at Georgia, where
I like it.
You know what I mean? It's like, gosh, but I know I'm comparing it to a Hall of Famer, right? So it seems disingenuous, but that was a lot. And he's a guy that I know a lot about Georgia's history and stuff. And that's neither here nor there. But it just reminds me of Seymour conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a different conversation. We don't want to compare him to a Hall of Famer, at least not yet. I mean, Daniil Hunter, obviously, that's been a tremendous player for the Vikings and the Texans. He was kind of the same dude at LSU, man. Like LSU, because I think that was around the same era where they had like Kiki Mingo and Sam Montgomery and all those really good defensive ends. And if you watched Daniil Hunter at LSU, they asked him to do a lot of things, man. Like he was playing a lot of different alignments. And then he came out, and funny enough, I think he had like 1.5 sacks, which is the same number as Samar Stewart his final year at LSU. Now he had more tackle for loss production. Like there's some other kind of nuances to it. But when you really look at it, like I think the greatest thing for Daniil Hunter was he got in with an NFL coaching staff. He understood the foundational stuff, and then he developed over time. And within 2 or 3 years, he was one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. And Shamar can be that guy. Like if you throw him into it, because situations matter so much. If you throw him into a situation that isn't patient, then he might never come out on the other side. But if you throw him into a situation that is patient and allow him to develop and allow him to do some things very, very well and to continue to grow on it, I do think, again, that he could end up being one of the better players in this draft. It's just about development and patience at the end of the day for him.
Ryan, so I'm going to give you an option here. Would you rather talk about Travis Hunter first or running backs?
Let's go running back.
Okay.
Let's go running back, yeah.
So I think you've got some guys in this class that I think people find really interesting. Obviously, Genty gets a lot of the headlines, but depending on who you ask, including my co-host here, there's some other guys that he might likes as much or maybe even a little bit more. With the emergence of like a Saquon Barkley or a Derrick Henry and how important they were to their respective teams this year, two of the best teams in the league, do you think we'll see a little more value placed on running backs earlier in the draft, or you think we're going to kind of see more of the same? Part two of that question, kind of what pecking order do you put these guys in, including Genty?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think that we're going to see a little bit more of valuing running backs in the draft early on because, unfortunately, as the game's kind of gone away from running backs being heavily valued, I feel like less players want to play running backs, right? Like that's kind of a natural thing. They're like, why would I want to play that if I'm not going to be valued in the end? So I do think that there's a little bit more, and it's not perfect for this class because there's a ton of running backs in this class, but that supply versus demand conversation, I do think that we're going to see a lot of running backs heavily valued in this class. I could see 2 end up going in the first round. I would only predict Genty right now, but like if Amari and Hampton from UNC went to like the Chargers in the 20s, like I wouldn't be shocked at all about it, right? So predictively, I think Hampton's in that running back 2 conversation. I think Johnson from Iowa is in that conversation as well. He's a really good football player. After that, though, like I do think it's just kind of pick your flavor. Like a lot of people like Travion Henderson from Ohio State, and if you want big plays, he's certainly right there on the cusp of that conversation. I like DJ Giddens from Kansas State, though, a lot. And I think I mentioned him on the show before. Like, I think that he is going to be the one big value in this class. Like, he's not going to go until probably 3rd round, maybe 4th round, but I do anticipate eventually he could be a 1,000-yard back in the NFL, and he could be one of the more talented runners. So for me, it would probably go Genty, Amari and Hampton right now, Johnson from Iowa, DJ Giddens, and then Travion Henderson. But you could honestly flip Giddens or Henderson depending on what you're personally looking for in a running back.
It's I can't get over, this is the former running back in me talking, how incredibly deep the draft is, where I'm hoping that like a guy like Gordon can go before the 5th round and a guy like Marks gets drafted. Like I think I watch Woody Marks run, pass, protect, and catch, and I'm thinking this guy is an elite level inside runner. Like he's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. I remember watching him especially a lot when they were about to play Notre Dame because I just went through some film study. He's one of the better all-round backs in this class. Now, he's not the biggest guy. He's only about 5'9", 205 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark, but he will pass protect. He's really good hands. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I think he set the NCAA, at least the FBS record of most career receptions by a running back because he spent some time, obviously, with Mike Leach at Mississippi State. So he catches the ball really well. He's really good in short windows. Like, he can make guys miss in space. He can make guys miss on the second level. Like, maybe nothing as far as like dynamic long speed, but like short area quickness is dynamic. So he does some really good things in tight quarters. And he's a guy that, like you said, he might go 5th, 6th, somewhere in that ballpark, just because it's
that's crazy.
It's such a deep class, and he's a little bit of an older guy. So if we're talking about, getting to a second contract and windows and all that type of stuff, I do think he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie, which is a little bit older for a running back, obviously, at least in the early stages of his career. But he's going to be a value. Like him, Giddens from Kansas State. There's a few guys. I feel like everyone's completely forgotten about like Kyle Monungai out of Rutgers, even though he'll probably go late and be a solid contributor in the NFL as well. Like,
or a guy like
Scatabo.
So
value, fine. Yeah.
So for him, is it simply about long end speed, or you kind of know you're not getting that going in? Do you want to be surprised, or you think you want to know what you're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, it is mostly about the long speed. I think that some people question just kind of the general explosiveness, even outside of long speed as well. We know that he's a really physical runner. We know he can catch really well. We know he can block. So, like, he does enough well where, like, at worst, he'll be a good stable back. You know what I mean? Like, he'll at worst be like a really good 1B or at least a solid 1B type of back. So it's going to come down to your flavor in this class, man. It's always the fun part of these conversations is, like, some people are going to be Woody Marks guys. Some people are going to be Cam Scatabo guys. Some people are going to be DJ Giddens guys. Some people are going to be Kyle Monungai guys, because they're all just very different. And depending on what team's picking in a particular spot, that flavor is ultimately going to tip their hand to who they value in that particular pick.
For you, who's CB2?
CB2 for me is Will Johnson, because I do have Travis Hunter rated as CB1 at this point. So
what's
Will,
the gap there?
I think is not a ton. I would say, yeah.
So you're going with, okay. I don't know. I'm far be it from me, because it's very opinion driven, right? It's subjective. Sure. But Will Johnson seems much more complete. I mean, boundary guy, field guy, will tackle.
Yep.
So you're banking on just sheer athleticism.
Well, I think the IQ / athleticism for Travis Hunter. I do think that there is still a nice jump that he can make if he stays at one position specifically and he focuses on it for sure. But I do think that the zone discipline, the eyes and coverage, the ball skills combined with just the short area explosiveness and the length that Travis Hunter has is pretty special. Like, I really do. Now, Will is the higher floor corner right now in the sense of he reminds me of Tremaine Johnson that used to play with the Rams and the Jets, but like the good Tremaine Johnson before he left the Rams, where it was like that kid is 6'2", really good change of direction. He doesn't have the greatest long speed in the world, and I think that's going to be the conversation about Will Johnson. Is like I do think there's some wide receivers that are going to be able to uncover against him. I just don't think he has, generally speaking, like that great long speed.
He just it's a Michigan guy, so it's like it's the dirty low hanging anybody could get fruit, but he gives me some Ty Law vibes.
Oh man, I love that. Well, unfortunately, I'm a Rams fan, so one of my worst memories growing up was Ty Law absolutely beating the hell out of Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce in the Super Bowl. So, but Ty Law was awesome, man.
He really gives me some Ty Law vibes. He's savvy. He's got really good instincts. I think he covers up whatever his long speed is extremely well, because he's such a good technician.
Yeah, well, I think that the scheme is going to matter a lot for a guy like Will Johnson, because I really think if you just have a system that is going to mix in a decent amount of zone, but is also going to allow him to be physical at the line of scrimmage at times and play some press, I do think that he has Pro Bowl upside. Like, I'd be willing to take Will Johnson top 10 without question. I would even consider top 5. Like, my most recent mock draft, I think I had him going number 6 overall to the Raiders, right? So, like, very high on Will. It's an easy evaluation. As long as he's healthy, generally speaking, I just don't see him being much of a bust factor at all. Like, if he's worse than a good football player in the NFL level, I'll be pretty shocked at that point.
So, Ryan, I want to stay on Travis Hunter here real quick. So you've got to measure cornerback 1, but not a huge margin over Will Johnson. Where is he on your wide receiver rankings?
So funny enough, and I'm probably the outlier on here. I don't have him graded as a wide receiver.
Okay.
I don't. I think he is
Smart.
a corner on the NFL level. I really do. One of my greatest conversations I've ever had was with J.C. Horn when he was coming out of South Carolina. I developed a good relationship with him. And when he was coming out of high school, when he first was going to South Carolina, he was an athlete recruit. And he actually wanted to play wide receiver because obviously his dad, right? Like Jim Horn, great player. But Jim Horn, his dad, or Joe Horn, excuse me, not Jim Horn, Joe Horn. Joe was told J.C., was like, look, JC, there's a lot of guys on this earth at wide receiver that look like you, but there's not a lot that look like you a corner. Like there's just not. So I really do believe that Travis Hunter, and specifically if he wants to try to play up both sides of the ball in some capacity, it's a lot easier to be a full-time corner and play wide receiver in some leverage situations than it is to do vice versa. So I haven't graded as a corner, haven't even graded him as a wide receiver at this point, and I'm not sure I'm going to. Like I think that he could be a good wide receiver, but I think that he's a Pro Bowl level corner if that's what he really focuses on the NFL level.
So let me ask you that. If he is a corner primarily, so we'll call it the Dion role, where he mostly plays corner, plays a little bit of wide receiver here and there when it, like you said, high leverage situations. Is that something that makes sense to you positional value-wise as a potential number one pick? Because I know some people have him as the top overall pick. Does a corner, a potential Pro Bowl corner to you, make sense as a number one pick?
Not in a vacuum. No, I think he is a very unique circumstance because obviously you play two different positions potentially, and he's just kind of a rare dude in that capacity. But I've been saying all along that if Tennessee's staying at one, I think there's two ways that you go. I think it's quarterback if there's one guy you believe in, and I think it's edge with Abdul Carter. Like I personally would not sit at one and take Travis Hunter, and it's no shot at Travis Hunter. I just think, again, if we're talking about the positional value conversation, quarterback, edge, they change the game a lot more than just like a corner does, generally speaking. So I would personally not take him number one. I'd be okay drafting him definitely somewhere in the top 10, potentially even top 5. Like I think that is very fair in this class, but I just think generally speaking, I would value an Abdul Carter or a quarterback depending on my situation in the top 10 or first overall in this capacity.
Does foot surgery not matter for Carter, for you?
I mean, I'm a little blind to exactly what the medical looks like, right? Like I know they're talking about like there's X, Y, and Z things that he can do, right? Like if he gets surgery now or he takes a different route. I am not at this moment concerned about it because he hasn't had this type of injury before, right? So if this was a recurring issue, like let's say a guy just like keeps tearing ACLs, it's like, man, that's not good, or keeps tearing up shoulders. Like that's a recurring issue, and that's something that medically speaking is probably not a good thing. It's probably more of a red flag. So I just think generally for me, I think that when you look at a player like Abdul Carter, who hasn't had recurring issues with one particular injury, I'm going to feel okay with it until a doctor tells me that I shouldn't feel okay with it anymore.
Whether you're at Georgia or Texas, or maybe you've got a long shot, who's going to be the fastest time in the combines, do you think?
I would.
Neither guy can really catch, so I mean,
but boy, can they run!
They're fast.
They can run. Yes, they absolutely can. Arian Smith from Georgia would be my guess if I had to predict who would be the fastest guy here. One wild card, I guess, a guy. But I was told by someone who I trust pretty closly that Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky is apparently going to run a blazing time. Yes, so that apparently his goal is to be the fastest corner here, and if you are the fastest corner here, that means that you are probably running at least 4.3. At least 4.3 high, or 4.3 low, excuse me, or maybe you're cracking the 4.2s potentially. So I would go with Arian Smith, but I do think Maxwell Hairston is a little bit of a wild card to keep an eye on.
Let me get you out of here on this. Who's the best offensive lineman in the draft? And if he is, will he have to move positions?
Great question. I think it's Josh Simmons from Ohio State, in my opinion, and I don't think that he will. The reason that I value him so heavily is that he is a true tackle. He's 34-plus inch arms. He's a really good athlete. He's coming off the leg injury, which is going to cloud him. I think if he wouldn't have got hurt for Ohio State, he may have possibly gone top 10, maybe even top 5. Like he had that quite of ascension that was happening with him. But with the injury, I think he's probably more of a mid-first round grade, or mid-first round valuation right now. So there's a chance that guys like Will Campbell and maybe even Kelvin Banks or like a couple other guys go before him. But I think that Josh Simmons, the left tackle from Ohio State, is going to end up being the best value as long as that medical checks out, because I think that he is the best true pass protecting left tackle in this class, in a class that doesn't have a ton of those guys.
That's our guy, Ryan Roberts, A to Z Sports. Ryan, great
That's basically
stuff.
A to Z.
Pretty much. We probably could have kept you for another half hour, but maybe we'll do a wrap-up with you soon after the Combine's over as well. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Ryan.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we are brought to you by our friends over at Centris Federal Credit Union. Make sure you get to centrisfcu.org today. You know, February is almost over, but it was just Valentine's Day a couple weeks ago. You don't have to say committed to your financial institution, though. You can look and see what other options are out there, and you should look at Centris Federal Credit Union. Go check out everything they've got, whether it's just checking and savings, whether you need a mortgage, a refinance, We've been talking a lot about auto loans this month as well. You can talk to their experts at centrisfcu.org to find out what they've got that will fit your needs. Federally insured by NCUA. DB.
RL.
There was some news last night.
There was.
The captain of the Enterprise got hired by Nebraska.
What's interesting about this?
What's that?
Do you remember when I told you I was in New York and I'm just watching guys work, and some guys that I thought I was going to see more like engaged from a football capacity because that's what they had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of behind the scenes with like portaling and contracts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is real time. And I told you, I'm like, they're going to have to rebuild that whole department.
Yeah. Which I maybe I was wrong, but that was sort of my assumption all along with Sean Patton. Like, he very much always struck me more as
the guy that I affectionately dubbed Alan Greenspan.
Yeah, as a business guy, as opposed to a football guy. Not to say he doesn't know football, right? But he always, with his background, when we talked to him on the show, he very much struck me as a business, analytical, that type of guy.
He is very good with talent eval too, though. So I'll throw that in.
Totally fair, right? But it really felt to me like his wheelhouse was some of the other front office-y type stuff. And so I just sort of always assumed they would bring another person in sort of a player personnel role, the way they just did with Pat Stewart from the Patriots. And they moved Patton over to assistant AD for innovations,
which is
right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's his sweet spot. Right now, he's still going to deal with like contract negotiations and salary cap things and stuff like that.
But you let Stewart do contracts.
Yeah.
And that kind of the fiscal numbers to know right where you're at.
Yeah, and to kind of have, I think, to me, I look at him as like a roster management type guy.
Yeah.
To be like, okay.
And he also this is total speculation, but I'm thinking he probably allows you to have like the Troy Vincent Jr.'s of the world.
Yeah.
And Keith Williams of the world. Like that, they can operate in that window.
Yep. And not have to worry as much about
Stewart,
some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it takes...
So that allows you to kind of put together a different department on the fly.
Yes. I think it also allows Coach Rule to worry less about that stuff. Yeah. Obviously, he's going to be involved. Has to be. But I do think there's going to be... And we've seen this across football, right? Or across college football where you're hiring GMs and stuff. Because the roster management of it all, if we're moving to more of an NFL model, most NFL head coaches don't deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, they're involved. They have the discussions. But the GM, it's the vice president, it's whoever dealing with those things. That's going to be Patton and Stewart from what it looks like. And I think that makes a lot of sense because you don't want Rule to have to be worrying about, well, okay, I need 18 offensive linemen and I need, I need 22 defensive backs. And like, that's going to be somebody else's
And he
job.
kind of blew through it a couple of pressers ago. But remember when he said, we got coaches that are going to have that. I'm going to allow them to make decisions on their room, on their personnel room.
Yeah. Because they're going to have a better feel for how many guys they need, what types of guys they need, how much you can take a flyer on a fresh incoming freshman that maybe you like their frame on that you would have taken a flyer on 2 years ago. You're like, okay, I've actually got room in my position group for that guy as opposed to.
But it's very interesting to hear Phil Simpson talk about his room the way that he did.
He was a little evasive, I think, because somebody asked him who's in your room.
Well, they try to pin him down like that. Just don't do that. Because number one, it's too early.
Okay.
Number two, it's pretty fluid. Like, because you don't really know what scheme you're going to run yet.
So I get that, but I do think part of it, like to me, I thought it was a genuine question. I didn't think they were trying.
That's fine.
I think they were trying to trap him.
If I'm a coach, I'm not answering.
That's fine. I also think I don't know that we have a great media fan in general. I don't know that we have a great feel on which guys are jacks versus which guys are linebackers versus which guys are edge defensive linemen, which is fine.
That's a good point.
And you
just want to know.
Yeah, I think genuinely people are like, okay, so
what's the difference between a jack and a Sutton? You could ask that question.
Yeah, like what?
Because they're not going to get player specific really.
And that's fine. But I think that was maybe I'm giving too much credit here. I think that was the core of the question is like, hey, which guys are body types?
You're probably right. Most times except for
Mhm.
you were getting specifics about Mav and McCullough.
Yeah, I don't know that it was asked the right way.
But I do no, and I'm not talking about that question. I'm talking about in its totality
Yeah.
when you get Simpson's response.
Yeah.
It's in order. The question was asked whenever the order
About
it was.
Willis or about
Because
McGahee,
the first couple of questions about the room, it was already implied who was in the room.
Yeah.
They didn't say who. He didn't say
Yeah.
who was in the room.
Yeah.
He's like, well, because I think they were kind of fact finding.
Mhm.
Well, Phil, I mean, he's smart. Like he's well versed too.
Yeah.
So he entertained a little.
Yeah, he
Matt,
gave
this.
He gave the two guys that they mentioned, then he added in McCullough, was working there right now.
Yeah.
He didn't say he was going to stay there. I do think there is.
So, there's some gamesmanship in that.
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
I also think to be fair, I thought it was a fair question. I also didn't expect him to give very many more names.
Yeah. So the fair or foul isn't what I'm saying.
Sure.
I'm not saying whether it was a fair question.
Yeah.
I'm saying when he's answering the question, he's letting you know. Oh, this is what I was going to say. We got some developmental guys that I like. We have some guys that have this body type. We have guys that are this style that I like. So even in his answer, I still got a developmental piece because I think we're afraid a little bit that the development is out the window
with the smaller roster.
But it's not.
No.
And you can tell by the guys, he has his X's and O's guy. But he also has this nice blend of developers. You need an Addison Williams. You need a DeKill Shorts. You have a Snow. You have a Holgerson. And you have a Butler who still likes to teach, but at least now he gets to roam a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I kind of think that's important.
Yeah. I do think it was really interesting when Simpson talks about, hey, like before, like I know I'm the edge guy, so we all think about pass rushing. Nobody even gets to pass rush until they can stop the run.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a really interesting.
Got to earn the right.
Well, and it kind of goes back to what Ryan Roberts was talking about too. Is like you build on foundation, right? So it's like, hey, you can pass rush all day long. If you can't stop the run, you're not getting on the field.
I told you the conversation I had with CJ, right?
Yeah.
I just kind of want to go back to rushing the passer. Oh man, we're in an odd front.
Yeah. You don't get to do that until you do the other stuff.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We got to stop the run first.
You'll get to rust the pasture when it's good in time. Coming next, we're going to talk to Brian Edwards, get a little Vegas insight from our guy at MajorWager.com here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2. I almost said
I don't
one.
even know what
Man, I don't even know where we're at. Doesn't really matter. We can do whatever we want now. And what we want to do right now is talk to our guy, Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, Major Wager. What's up, B? Oh no, I think he's frozen. He hasn't moved since we brought him on. Is he frozen in time?
Oh, no.
Oh, there he is. We can hear him. There he is.
How are you?
Oh.
Sorry.
There. Got him?
What's going on? I think so.
It's a gaming cord, man. You've been on your PlayStation 5 or what?
No, but I went 4-0 last night in college hoops, so I'm very happy.
I wonder why you were cheesing. Like your smile is like cutting the bottom of your headphones. You get to eat a little
Did a
bit
couple
bigger
parlays.
A little special breakfast this morning. You treated yourself to extra thick cut bacon or what? What are we doing?
Just a bowl of blueberries is all I've had so far.
Oh, bless your heart. Bless your. You guys have the giant ones down there that look like they're on steroids?
Sometimes we do, but this batch was not the big ones.
Yeah.
So are you talking about like real blueberries or like blueberry flavored cereal?
yeah.
We have,
Knock it off.
we had a
No.
Knock it off.
Legit fresh blueberries, buddy.
Wait, what's a carton going for down there in that sunny part of the country?
I think it was like $4.99 maybe for a little.
Yeah, if
box.
you don't know, you're winning enough. We're not interested in price. You're winning plenty.
B. Edwards not concerned about the price of eggs. That's what we learned this morning.
Your boy over here will tell you the difference in a 50-cent pound of chuck. So, all right. Hey, so how shocked were you, or maybe not at all, that your boy JG is getting plus money in the octagon?
I was pretty surprised. I mean, I thought Fiziev won round 1 in the first fight, but I thought it was just domination from Gaethje from then on. And Fiziev is off the torn ACL. He has not fought since, I think he fought like 4 or 5 months after the Gaethje loss. So that was like mid-ish, late 23. And he's got to travel across the world. Where does he live? Not Dagestan, but somewhere over there close to that. And just 2 weeks notice. How much weight does he have to drop? I know, but Gaethje's had a year off, or almost a year. I think it's like 11 months, maybe.
He's
since the Holloway loss,
and he's been through some wars.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna have that one Gaethje fight at some point where we're gonna be like, okay, it's all taking its toll on him. But do you think that's gonna be this fight? I'm not sure.
I doubt it, because he always answers the dinner bell. But I'm with you. There's like a Cerrone moment in there somewhere. It's got to be coming, right?
Sure. But he's 36, and the 2 fights before the loss to Holloway, he won. So no knockouts, and obviously he had a bad knockout loss this last one, clearly. But I don't think this is going to be the Cerrone moment you just referred to. And by the way, Cerrone's coming back.
I don't.
And Wonder Boy.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't like.
It seems
I don't like him coming back either.
Go be a dad. He was getting whipped down the stretch.
Yeah, and I saw Wonder Boy volunteered to fight him.
I don't get it.
I'm guessing being a dad doesn't have the same paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, no question.
I mean,
you're giving away money, not making money.
He wouldn't be the first one to fight when he shouldn't have for a paycheck. Let's be honest.
So you like Gaethje here, B?
Yep, I like Gaethje, and I saw plus 112 at Bet Rivers. I saw plus 110 at Bet Online last night.
All right, no surprise. It's Thursday. You got a little Summit League
overs, baby.
I'm guessing that you got a play that has to do with a total tonight.
I do, and we're going to go St. Thomas and North Dakota over 160.5. When they met earlier this year, they combined for 165, and the over. I don't know what's wrong with my computer. It's not letting me go to my write-up right now. I'm going to go off memory here. I think the over is 18-8-1 overall for St. Thomas, 17-8-1 overall for North Dakota. And North Dakota is ranked 5th in the nation in field goal percentage, 6th in three-point accuracy, and 8th in scoring. Let's go over 160.5.
Let's fast forward a little bit. I know you like to make some of your lines a little ahead of time. There's some big ones going on in the SEC this weekend. Let's start with Bama at Tennessee. What's the number you have for that one?
Okay, I have Vols -2, but I fully expect the Vols to be favored by more than that. Okay. I think they'll probably be 4-ish. And I would sit here and say right now I would take Bama at like 4.5 or more. However, I've had such good success with these live lines here lately. I think I'm just going to go into it hoping Tennessee takes an early lead, and I'm going to be looking for Bama like +7 or +8 on the live line. Now, if it's 5.5 or more, I'll probably take them pregame. But basically, I'm probably looking to go Bama here, but I want to be getting at least 5 and maybe more.
See, me and B. Edwards handshake meme on live lines. I love those.
That's just, I don't know. I guess if you have the patience and the wherewithal and mastered the art, but you have just a couple of key rules you like to go by too, B. You always look to see if you can get a better number anytime live than you would have played originally.
Yep, and I got the Gators +9.5 and +14.5 the other night, and I also had them +312 and +720 money line, which obviously lost, but boy, that was a great chance.
Georgia was my lock of that day, B. Just right for the picking. Florida needed that though, right? They needed a little. It had been a little too easy.
Yep,
for them.
That's what I always say, and I don't mean for it to be a cop-out when I'm talking about my team, but those late February losses can be a good thing. And, hey, if we lose in the SEC tournament in the semifinals and play one less game before the big boy tournament, I'll be just fine with that as well.
Man, I'm on the same page with you as that, B. Like, I'm okay losing. Like, I don't want to go one and done in a conference tournament, but I'm okay playing one less game, having an extra day off, and feeling still pretty okay about how I'm going into the tournament. But speaking of your Florida Gators, they also have a big one this weekend. A&M coming off of a loss to Vanderbilt that might have sewed up Vandy's tournament hopes. They're going to Florida and on Saturday. Where do you have that one in another pretty big SEC game?
Yeah, I've got the Gators 8.5. A&M has lost. Wait, have they lost 3 in a row now? Because they lost, they lost the Vols, and then at Mississippi State, and then last night. And last night that was not a good one. And props to Vandy. And I think I agree. I think if they lose out, they probably are probably still in, and definitely just need one more win at the most. I think the Gators are probably going to win that by double digits. But I got them 8.5.
Vandy's one of those weird teams you're going to want to take a look at. They're a tough scout, and they have a weird style. It's just there's always a handful of teams every year, just because I'm a dork and I watch a ton, that I'm like, God, how long have I been talking about how awkward it is to play Vandy?
All year.
It's a weird team to play against, because sometimes you think, well, how are they still in the game? And then you look up and they've pushed the lead on you. It's like how?
He's got a nice mixed match of players. I mean, Hogard and McLaughlin are tough, physical dogs. And then Jason Edwards is just a hell of a scorer. And then the nickel kid went 7 of 10 from 3 last night. He's just a pure shooter. MJ Collins, a nice role player. And I like their coach, Byington. And my dad's buddy, Tom Ostrom, who a longtime former Gator assistant for Donovan, is on that staff as well. I've been out of touch with him for about a decade, but I'm happy for him. Always root for him from afar.
B, last big SEC game of the weekend, Auburn at Kentucky. Kentucky's sort of a weird team to figure out as well. Where do you have this one?
Okay, so I made it Auburn -4 yesterday before the games, but Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler, who both came back last night, Robinson left the game at halftime, did not come back, and I think Butler re-aggravated his shoulder as well. So if those guys are out, it's not Auburn -4. It's more like Auburn -7 or 6-ish. I mean, it's still Kentucky at Rupp, but I wrote down 4, but it's got to be more than that if Robinson and Butler are out again. But props to Kentucky, even without those two guys, because Oklahoma played pretty good last night, and they pulled it out. Oweh was incredible down the stretch. But Auburn, 5 or 6 if those guys are out again.
But you got one more tonight with UC San Diego. What do you like?
Yeah, this team's a juggernaut, guys, and they're probably going to win a game in the tournament. They're 24-4 straight up, 21-5 against the spread. They've won 9 in a row, both straight up and ATS. They've won all of them by 11 or more, but a lot of them by 25 or more. 19 of their 24 wins are by double-digit margins, and they already beat CSU Northridge, albeit at home, 79-54 in January, and they've won 7 in a row over Northridge. Give me UC San Diego -5.5 or 6.
That is our guy, B. Edwards, Vegas Insider, Major Wager. B, always a pleasure. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys. Y'all as well. See ya.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Tons to get to across Nebraska sports. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Live.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. What's up, Bruntz?
How's it going?
Yes, we love to see. Are you turning over a new leaf?
I've had it for a while. I just trying some things out. It's spring training. I'm getting up to speed here, I guess.
So full disclosure, Bruntz. You know how funny I think you are. If I can see your face, will you still be as funny?
We'll find out. We'll find out.
I think he's gonna be funnier because he's got that like deadpan thing going. That's gonna kill you.
Orioles, huh? What is that? That's what we're on. We're just Team Orioles now.
Big big Boog Powell guy. Big Boog Powell guy.
You're not even old enough. Wow. Well, bro, you just never.
Earl Weaver. Is that more? Is that better? We're getting closer.
Yeah, we're getting closer. Nut job. That's close.
I just assumed he was a big Jim Palmer guy.
I don't even know where to start. Let's go football first.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple new hires. We got to meet some of the band. Can you tell strategically, or give me your hypothesis on what you think Nebraska wants to do with their infrastructure, with a GM, and allowing Sean Padden to kind of be a strategist as the other smart guy, as they manage contracts on one side and bodies on the other? Like, how are you kind of picturing this thing in your head?
Yeah, Sean Padden's done everything over there.
Yeah.
And I think this probably frees him up to be more strategic with how he spends his time. I think more big picture stuff and kind of big picture, but also I think also the nitty gritty type stuff. I mean, when you're talking contracts and salary, are we calling it salary cap?
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing?
That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna do contract stuff.
Yeah, I think
payroll. Like, what are we calling it?
Yeah, I think we have to.
Okay, so managing salary cap, that kind of stuff. I think that's a big job, and is going to get bigger. And I think having somebody also on the personnel side who has obviously, worked at a high level and worked for an organization that was very good at identifying talent and identifying overlooked talent. And I think that's the benefit is you kind of split those two roles and allow you to let Patrick Stewart go to work. And I thought yesterday, I think it was Phil Snow said it, but he talked about how Matt Rule is always going to be looking for an edge.
Yeah.
And you look at what's happened in college football in the last couple months with the explosion, or maybe not explosion, but the importance placed on this general manager role. Jim Nagy goes from the Senior Bowl to Oklahoma. I mean, that's where things are moving. And, you need somebody that can kind of organize all of this stuff, because the teams that are going to be able to punch above their weight, I think, are the teams that are going to be more organized and be able to put together a roster in an efficient way. And that's not, it's a new thing to college athletics. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the kind of bounce back of NFL guys coming in and bringing that expertise.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always joke, for even as whatever the relationships is that like we're forming down in Lincoln and getting to know these guys. Sometimes you see too much. I'm like, gosh, he's just really, I don't know if hard on his staff is the word, but he's just demanding, right? And you got to earn your money, and he's hard on himself, and he's always constantly talking about like in-game stuff and guys needing to work harder and smarter. And you heard Coach Snow intimate it, right? He said Matt's always going to be on his guys, right? Like that's just who Matt is if you work for him. When you look at the personalities, and this is on the heels of Phil Simpson saying, how did he say it? We have a good combination of coaches trying to prove themselves, guys that know they're like, you can tell he said when he answered that question, it was unnecessary to throw in the staff too. And right away, all I could think to myself is he must be really trying to establish how he wants this staff to approach this season mentally as well as just the players. I could be reading too much into that, but it just didn't fit with the answer. But I loved the fact that it must be so ingrained. He just said it as part of the response.
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that over there's an understanding that this is a really important year. Like I've been not surprised, but you hear it enough from different people that they're very well aware of what the year 2 to 3 mile marker means for Matt Rule and has meant in the past. And I think they've been pretty clear over there that the expectation is that that's going to occur at Nebraska as well. I mean, I think when you look at the moves that they've made, and certainly the coaching moves, I mean, you have overhauled all 3 of your coordinator spots. Behind the scenes, there's been a lot of additions and staff and some turnover there as well. There was some turnover the year before too, and I think that's just kind of the nature of how it's going to be. But yeah, I think that there is some internal pressure over there of like, we got to start to get this right. Like it felt like getting to a bowl game was an important step, but it's, the price of poker has gone up a little bit for everybody over there, and he's going to be demanding a little bit more. I think everybody over there is kind of feeling that. I mean, I don't think that it's not out of bounds to say that he's very, very, very demanding of his staff. And you either you thrive under that or you don't. And, I think when you see a guy like Phil Simpson come back knowing what it's like, I think it helps to kind of have people like that back in the program that understand what the expectations are and what it takes to be able to function in Matt Rule's system.
Bruntz, does it surprise you at all? And maybe it doesn't if you've heard Phil Snow talk very much about how pretty straightforward he is, but did it surprise you at all how kind of adamant he was that, him and Matt Rule and Coach Rule specifically have won everywhere, turned it around everywhere. It's a year 3 thing. And if Carolina had given him enough time, they would have won there too. Like we talked about that for a little while in his statement. Like, that caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was probably some confidence, I don't know. I mean, I can understand why he said it. I mean, they didn't get much time there. It was a really screwy time to be going into the NFL because you had everything with COVID going on. And he even mentioned, they didn't even meet a player in person for 6 months. I mean, how do you, like the traditional timelines of, how a Matt Rule type organization runs probably get pushed back a little bit when you're on Zoom with everybody and you're kind of trying to figure that out. I mean, would it have worked there? I don't know. I mean, I can't really speak that well to the challenges he had in Carolina. I mean, I think they were pretty significant. I think a lot of challenges that he faced were probably coming from the top down, just based on how that organization runs. But I don't know. I've gotten over the last couple of years, people that were there have kind of said the same thing, that it felt like, the plug got pulled too soon and that they were starting to trend in a positive direction when everything kind of blew up there. So I don't know. It didn't shock me. I guess I was the thing that surprised me again was just the emphasis on how big year 3, like they're not like arbitrarily setting the bar low over there for what this season, the expectation for the season is. And I guess that's noteworthy to me because you've heard it so many times already, and we're sitting here in late February.
It was interesting how he just went through, by he I mean Phil Snow was talking about like putting the roster, and he intimated what you just said. Not intimate, he said, they didn't get a lot of time to do it. And one of the things that caught my eye was, well, we had a small guy on one side. We wanted a big guy on the other. We ended up getting 2 small guys. So we had to play some 5-man front because we wanted to stop the run. It just was kind of a glimpse twofold. Number one, it was cool to hear, all right, we're not going to round peg square hole this deal. But you could clearly understand they weren't getting to choose what they wanted either. Right. I think ultimately was the undoing, just not being on the same page. But I did like the fact that, all right, if this is the hand we're dealt, then we're going to play it this way. Like, that was kind of my takeaway.
Well, and you take the next step with that. Like
in Reddick, we had to play some 5-man.
But if you move forward with that, and for this year's roster at Nebraska, I mean, there's going to be similar challenges up front, right? Like you're replacing 2 very important defensive linemen. Are you going to be able to play a bunch of 3-man front with what you have there right now? Do you have to play more 4 and 5? Like that's what's going to be interesting to me is you've got, a John Butler who's relatively still new as a coordinator. And you've got Phil Snow standing there, who's been Matt Rule's longtime defensive coordinator, and I'm sure has a lot of ideas about kind of how to run things. And, how is that push and pull going to work when, you're going to have to find some answers in that front 7? I mean, I think they have bodies on that defensive line where they can mix and match. And I think they've got guys that have the potential to be serviceable pass rushers. But I struggle to see how they're going to be able to line up and just run, a very similar defense to what they ran last season. Like there's going to have to be some adjustments there. And I think that willingness to fit it more to personnel, that probably helps you now with the way college football is too, where, season to season, you've got new guys are coming and going. I mean, you just cannot, the way things are now, you just cannot be so married to your system. And, it's you just have to have some flexibility there. So I guess kind of hearing that, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense to me for what 2025 might look like.
Bruntz, I was thinking about, going back to kind of the GM conversation. I've kind of thought about this for a while. I know the NIL and transfer portal has sort of pushed this to the forefront, but in retrospect, is it surprising at all to you that this didn't happen sooner? Like the head coaching job at a major university has been like 8 different jobs for a long time. It feels like they should have sort of been separated out a long time ago.
Yeah, no, well, Nebraska kind of tried that, right? Like in 2016, 2017.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, with Kennedy?
No,
it's a Kennedy. The guy that came from the Rams.
Devaney.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the time or the person to do it with, but I mean, I think I was thinking that when the news came down that they'd made that hire, I was like, oh, this is, this sounds familiar, but I think with the way things are now, you need that role. And I wonder too, in some ways, if the the dropping of the restrictions on the 10 assistants, you know, if that kind of like paved the way for these types of hires where like, you know, you can have Phil Snow in the building and you don't need him out recruiting. Same with Dana Holgerson. I mean, it's much more of guys that have very focused, you know, narrowed in type jobs. And then, you know, the next logical step to that is, okay, well, in the support staff, where can we add guys that are going to help us or you know, serve very specific functions within the organization. So I don't know if that's like a natural step, but I mean, I would be shocked if you know, most Big Ten teams don't have somebody in this role by this time next year. I mean, it's you just have to do it because, you know, roster management and just kind of strategy for how you approach this kind of ever-changing thing with the transfer portal and NIL. I mean, you just cannot afford to be left behind here.
Successful high schools or programs that I've been around or businesses in the private sector kind of have some common things, and starts with common language, number one. But Phil Simpson said some things yesterday, and Snow reiterated them, where there was this thing where they talk about, you know, you heard Simpson say, you know, something that may take me 10 minutes could take Snow, you know, 30 seconds or whatever he said. And, you know, Snow said, hey, make no mistake, this is John Butler's defense. Or, hey, part of a DC's role is he needs to be able to roam, so I want to do this. I love hearing guys talk openly about knowing their role and kind of staying in their lane in terms of what's expected. Because when your culture's already starting to form, which I think Nebraska's is, the more that your players or your employees or whomever can see that the infrastructure above looks like what they're asking for below, the better chance you have for success. Am I being a little too myopic, or are you vibing with kind of how they're trying to put this thing together top to bottom?
Yeah, and I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier too. I mean, I think they're bringing people in with like very clear like expectations. Like we need you to do this. Like this is the role that we need you to fill. Like Phil Snow, I need you to help, you know, coach on field, be there for strategy, help with special teams. Like I think that when you kind of have the expansion of the I mean, for lack of a better word, the bureaucracy over there. I mean, they've got a lot of people over there handling a lot of different roles. I think when you have that kind of help over there, you can kind of let people focus a little bit more on their kind of their area rather than kind of having to do everything. You know, I think that's, you know, the coaching stuff with having more, you know, not having the limits of on-field assistance anymore. I mean, that's a huge help when you're bringing in these people that before would have had to recruit and coach and run a room and do all these different things. And now you just have so much more help, and you're bringing in guys with, you know, 30, 40 years of coaching experience. That's huge for, you know, kind of making everything flow a little bit more easily within the organization. And, you know, I think having guys like Dana Holgerson and Phil Snow around. I mean, John Butler's the same way. He's been, you know, a veteran coach. I mean, that's a huge help for guys like Phil Simpson and Rob Dvorak and guys that are a little bit younger in their careers. And even, you know, Phil Snow said this yesterday. He's like, you know, I'm supposed to be around here helping these guys. I mean, that's another kind of piece of what he has to do. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I think that they've done a good job over there of kind of identifying areas where they can bring people in and just add more. And you know, you get a little bit more focused. It takes a little bit off the plates of other people. So, you know, if the NCAA is going to let you do it, you may as well take advantage of it. And, you know, obviously Matt Rule's got a pretty well-rounded orbit of people that he can bring in that have a lot of experience and help out there.
Let me transition real quick because I want to sandwich this in between basketball. Over the weekend, you're obviously watching what's going on in Lafayette, and I don't know where you thought Nebraska was going to be offensively, but what surprised you more? Because there was a lot of swinging and missing early last year. Well, throughout the season last year, where they are offensively at this point. I understand it's early, versus kind of the fundamental collapse of a team that you felt like was probably going to be pretty veteran laden and savvy emotionally, with kind of the mistakes, the self-inflicted, the stuff that they did in the doubleheader on Saturday. Which one is kind of like more, wow, I didn't really see that coming?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see this veteran of a lineup hitting 217 after 2 weekends. I mean, that's a concern.
Is it the swinging and missing?
It's not even the swinging. I would be more concerned about the just watching. Like there were a lot of backwards Ks in that doubleheader, and they had a bad day. I mean, there's no better way of saying it. I mean, the approach was not good at the plate. Ty Horn threw well enough to win in the first game, but just uncharacteristic mistakes in the second game, and they missed a chance to get a really nice road series win. So
building bunts, Bruntz.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, they're still fielding at 988. I mean, they pitched it well. They fielded well for the most part. It's just, when you kind of look at, you keep a book and you're looking at kind of where the outs are being made, and it's a lot of rollovers. It's lazy pop flies. They weren't really on the barrel much at all. And I think that's, when you have veteran guys, sometimes I think you can kind of get into press city pretty quick, where you're trying to do too much. You've had some success. It's not happening for you, and it's just happening up and down the lineup right now. So, they got to find something that, higher quality at bats. And the thing that's tough though is when you look at the arms that they've been good against. They were good on Friday against the preseason Sun Belt pitcher of the year. They were really good against a Vandy pitcher that was throwing 95 from the left side. And, the times that they've struggled this season so far, it's been, a back of the bullpen guy against Grand Canyon that comes in looking like Rob Nin. And then you've got,
Rob.
You like that? And then, the guy that they lost to in the second game on Saturday, it was upper 80s fastball with a breaking pitch. Like they should be able to handle that. So I think that's been kind of the most frustrating thing, is they look good against good arms. And then, there's been some stretches of games where you're just like, come on, guys, like pull it together here. So they got to find something this weekend. I think kind of coming home and having a full week of preparation has been good for them. But, it's certainly not going to be an easy weekend with Sam Houston, LSU, and a very good K-State team on the docket.
I'm surprised as an A's guy you didn't go Jason Isringhausen on me. But
I'm not surprised that you would pick a lowly Giant. But I mean, maybe we could go back to his Florida days too.
A Marlin.
I would say you're big Marlins guy. Real quick before we let you go, Bruntz, big series or big tournament, whatever you want to call it, this weekend.
Yep.
What does Nebraska need to do to make you feel better about the trajectory of the early part of the season? Is it a number of wins, or is it more how it looks?
Both. I mean, it needs to look good, but you need some wins. I mean,
you got to get 2, right?
I think 2-1 is a good goal. I mean, this is why you schedule difficult early in the season. Is you got to win them. Like it's great to play tough teams, but you got to come out with the wins too. So I think 2-1 is a fair goal. The at bats need to look a lot better. I think that they're still kind of tinkering with order and I mean, they still have 13 guys in that lineup that they feel like can come in and play for them. So I think there's a little bit of competition going on too for who ends up getting one of those roles when they come home. I mean, it's crazy to say, but with the bigger Big Ten, I mean, they're starting conference play on the weekend of March 7th. So it's coming up faster.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, we appreciate it.
Made my week, Bruntz. Sans I don't know. I think he was an all-star a couple times. Sans the San Francisco Giants reference, but outside of that, go Orioles.
I was hoping I was hoping you'd go Keith Folk. We could somebody we both can love.
Brian Wilson. He was a Dodger, right?
Worse as he came over to L.A. Knock it off over there, Bruntz. Wow.
Big Billy Koch guy,
let
Michael
me
Bruntz.
roll my sleeves up after I was terrorized you with a mohawk as a giant. Come on over to SoCal.
Bruntz, it was good to see you this week.
Yes.
We'll talk to you again next week. All right.
A pleasure. See you next week.
Fantastic stuff, Bruntsy.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We needed I guess it was a GA back then. The names have changed so doggone much, right? But this guy kept texting me, sending me stuff. I mean, I don't even know him, right? I said, who the hell is this guy? So, and he played at Penn State. So, and he says, hey, Coach Paterno will stand up for me. So I went to the head coach, Bob Toledo at UCLA. And I said, Bob, do you know Coach Paterno? He said, yeah, real well. I said, will you call him on this guy? Because he's driving me nuts. So he did, and Paterno said, hire him. So nobody on our staff knew him, not one person. And he did a hell of a job now. In 1 year, left really an impression on everybody there. And, you know, by the way, Deshaun Foster played for us at the time, right? He's head coach at UCLA. So, but yeah, he did a great job. And I've always stayed in contact with Matt since.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Great place to come hang out if you're looking for some games to watch, just looking for some food, some quality.
The TV setup is very, very underappreciated here.
Yeah, 100%. Not all sports bars are created equal.
Well, kind of like your loyalty. You're about as committed as your options. Plenty of options.
Only in basketball rotations. I want to make that clear. Clear. Not that my wife listens to the show.
Shane,
but
are we clear?
No, I think we're on. I think we're on air.
Clear.
Does she like sports?
No, not at all.
My wife likes sports, and she still doesn't listen to me.
This is
ever about anything.
I listen to you, DB.
That's why I come to work. Can't wait to get out of the old house. No, I'm just serious.
You know, so the reason I asked, and we'll do bet on it here in just a second. We'll get some more winners from DB. But the reason I asked Bruntz about that Phil Snow question with the Carolina stuff, because I thought it was a pretty big departure from the way we've heard Rule talk about the time in Carolina, right? Like, that's why it caught me off guard, because he was pretty adamant, like, oh, no, if you had given us enough time, even with the weird COVID circumstances, we'd have won there. Mm-hmm. And he went as far as to say, like, hey, even after they fired us, like, you don't think the foundation that we set led to the 7 wins that they had that year, which is dramatically more than they've had pretty much any other time in Carolina in recent memory? Like, that to me was it was a little jarring, because we really haven't heard Coach Rule talk about the time in Carolina that way at all.
Yeah, and he's kind of moved on. I think it's just their personalities.
For sure.
That's a good what's the word I'm looking for? Synopsis or observation.
Oh, between the two?
Between the two, because I think it's both of their personalities.
Yeah.
You know, Phil is he's experienced, he's kind of a veteran. He's savvy. He's kind of a storyteller, but he's very reflective.
It also feels like
he's very, very reflective. So it's kind of like what he said about, in the same vein, but different. It's kind of what he said about studying first through third down.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, really good on first and second down. I like this, this, and this. What we need to do on third down is kind of elevate this, where, you know, we want to show movement in the box, kind of radar. We want to mug guys. We want to show mug, which, again, are things that I like.
Yeah.
Right, because it's just football, and he's actually looking at something in game planning.
Yeah.
But he's also acknowledging what his coach said to us during the whole defensive coordinator search.
Yeah, however many months ago.
I like a lot of what we're doing. This is what's going to make this so hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to change a ton in terms of our preparation. I want an answer guy.
It's actually easier when you want to throw everything out, right?
Right. So it's just
when you're making a change,
yeah,
it's easier when you don't like what you're doing.
So I like the fact that there's consistency in that message, because it panned out that way.
Yeah.
Which was why I was so bothered about what we thought about Butler. I'm like, really, guys?
I think so. This is a very fan thing, right? We just wanted to get excited about a name. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It's not about John Butler, really. We wanted to get excited about a name, and I get it. But, like, I don't know. Like, I have no way of knowing if Simons from SMU is a better defensive coordinator than Butler is. I have no idea. I really don't. And I think anybody being honest with you as a fan would tell you the exact same thing. There's some guys, I don't know if any of them were on the table, but there's some guys you could look around the country and be like, yeah, that guy's, I like his experience. I like his track record. He probably would have been a better choice. I don't know if any of those guys were on the table, right? I just don't. Like, if you go and hire Al Golden, maybe you feel really good about that, right? Coming off a Broyles Award, you saw the defense that Notre Dame put together. You're like, oh, man, like Al Golden, no-brainer, sure. But a year ago, if Tony White had left, and we're like, oh, we just got this guy who's an active
I know.
coach with the Buffalo Bills. He's up for the Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator job, and he takes the Nebraska defensive coordinator job instead. We'd have been thrilled out of our minds.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that
it's
bugged
the
me about-
perspective.
It wasn't
right?
even necessarily about defending Butler because I don't know enough yet.
It's just the perspective of it.
You know, I'm still fact finding and
well, that's the truth. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to work or not, but we also don't know if Simon's like that's the name that always comes up.
I
at
think
least, Simon's from
I
SMU.
think the thing I'm most excited about is we can't see it yet, but if you listen. And it's not that hard because he says it almost in every sort of presser about what he wants and what he's trying to build. The hires fit.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
They all fit together.
Like, oh, yeah, I can see this and this, and this guy's going to do this. Like, you can see his words actually come into fruition with the hires.
That's
just like when he says in passing, getting off the bus, going to Fordham, I'm like, hey, where's such and such and such and such? Oh, man, you know, these portal calls are crazy. We got to set up kind of these dinners and host these guys when we get back to Lincoln. I sure could use those guys on the field. I'm going to have to redo this whole NIL deal if they don't change the calendar with my department. Just in passing.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and it's exactly what
exactly what we're seeing right now
with the hires,
Yes.
with the GM and the ace assistant AD
And
for
so when
innovation.
Bruntz says, man, you can tell like these guys have specific things that they're supposed to take care of, and then everybody will get better because you can accentuate your strengths.
Yeah,
right. You can let Keith, you know, be the guru. You can let Williams do. You can let Keith Williams do Keith Williams things. You can let
Troy Vincent
Jr. do Troy Vincent things.
You can let Patton be Patton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you heard. How about how Simpson quietly wove in? Well, you know, with Corey and Kristen, you know, when it comes to nutrition and putting on the what their frames can carry and these guys are all saying the same thing.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page.
The same thing.
So you know what's funny
to me?
Yeah,
that's exciting. That's why I was surprised to hear you say you liked shorts the best yesterday, but I understand why. It's not that I didn't. It's just for vastly different reasons than what I was listening for.
What were you listening for?
Continuity.
Sure. With like within the staff, within
like what do they need? Right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of skewed, you know.
So Phil Simms was probably the most continuity.
Yes.
Snow was kind of the most confident, reflective. And then I thought Shorts was sort of the most compelling to listen to.
Yeah.
Out of the three guys. Now, Snow is a good storyteller, and he, there's a lot there.
You could tell that Shorts was a guy that has been groomed for this moment.
Yeah. He looked like he felt ready.
A natural, yeah.
Like he looked comfortable. I think that's what I was seeing when
he's confident.
Yeah, he seemed like secure with himself, which I like. But it was, I think the other thing we talk about, besides just getting excited for a name as a fan base, we also think about hires mostly in a vacuum. I think we think about, okay, is this a good D-line coach or not? Is this a good defensive backs coach or not? Is this a good running backs coach or not? We don't think about it in the scheme of a workplace because we don't really think about college football or coaching staffs in general as workplaces, right? They are. This is, you're basically dealing with an office workplace. You're around these guys a lot. You have to deal with each other all the time. Like interpersonal relationships matter, covering up for each other's strengths and weaknesses matter. I don't know that we think about that a lot when we're looking at, oh, well, I wish they would have gone out and gotten this guy. It's like, well, maybe that guy's hard to work with. Like maybe, like we've heard that with coaches a lot. Like Rich.
So presents, you'll take Shorts.
Yeah, I just liked the way he came off.
Experience and knowledge, kind of you'll take
Snow.
And relationally, you'll take Simpson?
Yeah, I think so.
That's about what they need.
So
that's about what they need.
The reason I started coming around on this is when they hired Butler and Snow basically simultaneously, right? Because my big concern about Butler was I would have liked somebody with more recent coordinator experience in college, right? That's what I wanted out of the hire. Now, am I right? I have no idea, but that's what I wanted out of the hire. But then when you marry that with Phil Snow, who's got all the experience in the world, all of a sudden that hire feels vastly different to me. If you hire John Butler without Phil Snow, I probably still have more consternation. You hire them together, I go, oh, that makes sense.
Were you momentarily like, with the fact that Addison Williams has had coordinating experience?
Yeah, I like that too.
And he's kind of the young relational guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty strategic.
And let's not forget, Coach Rule also has defensive coordinating experience.
Yeah.
Like you've got 4 guys now on staff with coordinating experience on that side of the football. That matters. But I also think you have to be really strategic because you don't have 4 guys that I think all want to be the defensive coordinator at Nebraska right now. That also really matters, right? John Butler wants to be the defensive coordinator at Nebraska right now. Phil Snow doesn't.
Yeah, you can't hire guys that want your job unless they tell you ahead of time.
Yeah, unless they're upfront about it, right? Unless there's a transparency there. But like Phil Snow doesn't want John Butler's job. Addison Williams maybe does, but I don't think he's gunning for it. And obviously Matt Rule doesn't want that job. So you're dealing with vastly different dynamics with 4 guys that have been defensive coordinators. And that can be really interesting and I think can sort of compound like sum is greater than the parts situation on the defensive staff. And that's not to say the parts are even bad.
I can't stress how important it is for these guys this year, the players, to see consistency in the modeled behavior. Like it's always important, but it's critical this year because you've added some new faces. And remember, Coach Rule has kind of left himself no real wiggle room to be critiqued. Like he can't, and I don't know if he doesn't strike me as the type of dude that's going to make excuses because he hasn't so far. But he's taken away a lot of the variables. So now we just get to watch the coaching.
Yeah.
Right? We know it's year 3. We know the roster's kind of had an overhaul. You got a nice blend of young and new. You kind of got the staff you wanted because most coaches will tell you it takes 4 or 5 years to get your real staff.
Sure. Availability versus who you can get at what time.
Versus you kind of have to tinker and see what works. Too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're dealing with chemistry and people and interpersonal relationships and
the landscape changed too.
Like the landscape of college football changed
dramatically. Who gave
dramatically.
the moving ground analogy? Was it BC? This is somebody smart.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was yesterday.
Getting your feet on moving ground or something like that. Like that's really what's happened navigating this college football deal. So I don't know how it's going to work. I just like the conviction. Like you can tell there's a plan.
And they're giving themselves a chance. That's the big thing, right? They're giving themselves a chance.
That's a lot better than
the alternative.
Or it not sticking.
Yeah.
Like it's just throwing it at the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if let's just say, for instance, like if Barthel leaves, you would have said, because we're kind of contrarians, some would have maybe been happy, but we'd have been like, oh man, the running game was starting to come together.
Yeah.
Like that's how we would have looked at it.
When you married Barthel with Holgerson's offense, it started to look.
That kind of stuff matters.
It does matter. I mean, I used this example before, but
it's why Dana likes Sat as coaching the tight ends next to Donnie because of how well they work together.
Well, and let's not forget how much different with largely the same guys Donnie's offensive line looked with one offensive coordinator versus another, going from Whipple to Satterfield and from year 1 to year 2. Let's get to some picks coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
We will be back. be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and reminding you, give my friends over at Midland's Family Urgent Care a call. If you're trying to lose some weight, still got a few months before summer. If you're trying to lean out a little bit before you get into those summer clothes, make sure you give them a call. 402-810-9494. I've lost 30 pounds already. I'm on the semaglutide. They also have tirzepatide. Both are FDA-approved options to help you lose weight safely and effectively under the supervision of an experienced medical team, not just some rando you found on the internet. Make sure you give them a call. Set up that consultation today, 402-810-9494. That's Midland's Family Urgent Care. It's true, man. You got to watch out.
Is that what you call them?
Yeah, you just got randos on the internet, man.
Randos?
You could, here's the scary thing, right? Is you can get whatever you want on the internet, but the problem is you can get whatever you want on the internet. And there's a lot of times no guidance, no expertise, nothing going on there. That's not always a good idea. I don't know if you know this. Most people aren't doctors.
No, I'm with you.
You kind of end up in a world of what's going on if you just start hey, they'll prescribe you anything on the internet, man. You got to be careful.
What's going on?
A big 4 non-blondes guy. And I said, hey, yeah, hey.
Oh, I know that song, but that's not what I was singing.
Oh.
I wasn't singing anything in particular.
I was.
Not that time.
Okay, that's fair.
What's the name of that group?
4 non-blondes. 4 people who are not blonde-haired.
See.
I didn't know if I was enunciating well.
See.
No, that was on me.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
No, I didn't know if I was enunciating the non-blondes because it's kind of a weird thing, non-blondes.
So, instead of 4 non-blondes, you're 4 young blondes or something.
Whoa, easy, bud.
What?
Oh, easy.
I mean,
you
said you weren't enunciating it right. I'm just wondering.
If you say non-blondes too fast, sometimes it doesn't even sound like English, non-blondes. Doesn't even sound like an English word.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not what you said at all, Shane. Don't exactly me. We're not in the same group here. I'm not getting lumped in with your young blondes. I don't know what your Google searches are over there, bud, but let's separate those a little bit.
Yeah, what a rush.
DB, you got any winners tonight?
Yeah, I got a couple.
What do we got?
I've got a couple.
Are we going back to the Valley?
Not
today?
No.
Okay.
But I did look at a couple of Summit leagues, but I got off.
Okay.
I kind of like Kansas City at Denver, or at home against Denver, but that's not it.
Yeah.
I'm going.
What are we on?
So I'm going to the state of Idaho.
Uh-oh.
And it's very, very similar. You'll catch a theme here. Idaho State is on the road at Idaho.
Okay.
Kind of a rivalry game. Losing record.
What is that, Big Sky?
Yeah, losing record for the Vandals.
Okay.
They are favored at home.
By 1.5?
Or 1.
Okay.
I like the Vandals.
Okay.
On the money line.
Big Vandals guy?
Big Vandals guy. Big Vandals guy. And in similar vein.
Who's the quarterback from North Platte that went out there? Nathan something? Enderly. I wanted to say Epperly. I knew that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Dang, you're testing my recall on the fly. I got it though.
I know you got this.
Sometimes.
I gotta keep you sharp.
I'm very, very capable of drawing the blanks.
1.5.
Yep. And
1.5. You like Idaho?
And the money line.
Okay.
And in similar vein, FAU is favored at home against North Texas.
Ooh.
FAU is capable.
Okay.
I like them at home.
You like them at home
again?
Against
I take
North
the money line.
Texas against a pretty good North Texas team.
They are pretty good.
That's a solid squad over there.
Yeah. Well, you told me the same thing about Drizzy.
Didn't Drake win?
They almost lost outright.
Yeah, they didn't cover, but they won.
Yeah, which is why I like the Purple
Bulldogs.
Aces.
I'm just saying, you're hating on my D2 guys over there.
Oh, Missouri State.
Bedwetters. Hating on my D2 guys over there.
Not really.
A lot of D2 players on that roster.
Who did I get outright yesterday? What were my two? One was
one
was Missouri State. Who
who
was my other one?
Who was the other one yesterday?
They won. Smooth sailing.
It wasn't. It was just the one Missouri Valley team, right?
No, Ravi. Yesterday was yesterday.
You didn't take Vandy yesterday, did you?
No, I just told you I liked him. That wasn't a
lock it up.
No.
Well, I don't remember.
Oh, Coastal.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they won outright.
Big Coastal guy.
I was. They won outright. I mean, in a blowout.
So Idaho.
Yeah, yes, you are.
Utah. What? I am a big gardener. Actually, I'm not. I hate taking care of my yard.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst.
You know what the opposite of a green thumb is?
What happens when you break through the toilet paper?
No. Well, yeah. I was going to say brown, but not for that reason. Just I associate brown with light wilted and dead. You do have a brown thumb.
Well, we both do, bud.
I'm not. Nope, not doing it.
I mean, just look at him. It's pretty, mine's a little lighter, but still brown.
It's kind of weird. But you did hit your racial put down for the day.
What'd I say?
I mean, you're averaging. I'd set your line about 2.5.
Seems low.
I get that in the first segment.
Some days I'm at like 7. What'd I say today? I don't even remember.
It was off air.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't count.
It was very subtle and very comfortable with me. I feel like my black guy voice is getting deeper.
Okay, I do remember that one. Well, and then you're like, okay, what's the black guy voice? I was like, okay, so we had our friend Art.
In a way, despite the way he talks, can be a little black at times.
That's a great pull, Shane.
That's an
wow.
That's an awful dumb pull.
No, so we've got our guy Art,
Yep.
and he's got the famous drop. Yeah, still,
He's got a lot.
And so all I'm trying to do is sound like Art. Art happens to be black, so that I referred to that as my black guy voice.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's getting a little deeper. I don't know why. I don't know why it's getting deeper.
Because you go into
but still,
you go into character quite a bit, so you have practice.
Me?
Yeah.
What character do I go into?
What do you like? What do you like tonight?
I don't.
You go into a lot of characters, by the way.
What kind of characters?
I don't know. Just
I DJ sometimes, so I got all kinds of.
Do you ever DJ?
Like, have I DJ'd?
Yeah.
I've done a couple weddings.
So was Shane. Doesn't that strike you as odd?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Like, I'm sure Shane was great at his job. I have a hard time picturing getting like a crowd going at a wedding.
I had to give Shane a very specific playlist.
I've done a couple hundred weddings. So
I'm sure you're great at it. Like, I believe you.
I mean, it gets the older you get, the harder it gets to do.
You don't have that same energy.
You don't have the same energy. You're maybe you get a little bit out of touch with, the newer music that comes in. So you might miss a song or two here or there.
So DB had to give you a real specific playlist.
Nah, I just gave him Micah.
Yeah.
Is that the last wedding you've done? Was DB's?
That was the last wedding I did, yes.
You retired on that one?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Dang, that's been some years.
It has. It's been a minute.
I miss that guy. What do you think? What do you think happens in Michigan and Rutgers? You got to be cheering your brains out for Michigan.
So that's the one. Why?
You want Rutgers to. You want everybody. You want the USCs. You want all those people.
Oh, for Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Even though I think they are going to probably just be the 10 seed regardless.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't mind seeing them in an 8-9 though.
I do kind of think. You mean in the Big Ten, not in the NCAA, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you don't want to be the 8-9 in the.
No.
I do kind of think Rutgers covers tonight.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, 9.5 seems like a lot.
If you haven't learned anything from it, don't think you know Rutgers.
Yeah, that's fair. I think this is more about Michigan. I don't love the way
You can't get yesterday. You can't get less.
No, I really can't.
I'm telling you though, they're better. They're not going to go 0.71 points per possession again.
I know. It's so hard.
They just are like that.
I know, and that's the problem.
Even when they score 80, you're not going to.
No, it doesn't feel great.
You're not going to love it.
It's not a pretty 80.
Yeah, you're just not going to love it.
And I don't know. I think 9.5 is too many. I'd probably go Michigan to win, but Rutgers to cover.
Gonna keep cheering for Maryland to lose?
Yeah, I guess.
That was a gut punch.
I don't do the Big Ten cheering as much as I do in the Big East.
Of course not.
What?
Of course you don't.
Nebraska's kind of at where they're at. They're just at where they're at. What do you want from me?
Although a 9 wouldn't be bad.
9 would be fine.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what it is.
I'm 10.
Listen, and don't act like Nebraska can't lose to Penn State the same way that they could beat Michigan. Like I'm not sure the seeding matters that much.
I understand. I'm with you there.
Like it's kind of
once. It only took 3 hours to get there.
Hey, you're with me all the time. We'll be with you again tomorrow morning on Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.